Welcome to an unnecessarily long and extensive recap on the Descendants books that just provide further lore to a pretty clean cut series that didn't need much expansion, but I love them nonetheless. I've read them as kids, love them now. I reread all of them for this, which was a choice. Okay, and if you can hear any external noise, sorry, my mom's on the phone, so can't really fix that. But I'm in a little Evie-esque outfit today, aka just wearing blue. I didn't have my Halloween costumes from the 3 years that I was her. Sad that I lost all three. I would have worn one, would have committed to it. I had a wig too, so a little bit disappointed, but it's okay. Before I get into the plot of the first book, I'm just gonna do a little overview of who each character is. We have Evie, the daughter of Evil Queen, Mal, the daughter of Maleficent, Carlos, the son of Cruella de Vil, and Jay, the son of Jafar. And then over here we have Ben, who is the son of King Beast and Queen Belle. I forgot to mention while I was filming, but Mal is played by Dove Cameron, who was in other Disney productions like Liv and Maddie and such. And Sophia Carson plays Evie, and this seemed to be her most big break for her acting roles from what I've seen. And then she was in other Disney projects after this, like she was in A Cinderella Story. Loved that when I was a kid because she was my favorite. And Carlos is played by Cameron Boyce. May he rest in peace. He was in Jessie and a bunch of other Disney projects. Jay was played by Boo Boo Stewart, who you might know from being the wolf that dies in the Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. At least that's what I always think of. And he was a werewolf in that, and that's fun. And Ben was played by Mitchell Hope, and he did not sing in the first movie. That's the number one fact that I know. And he is king because he created a little dictatorship of the United States of Oridon, which is just all the kingdoms from the Disney franchises, like Cinderella's kingdom, all that. But he just runs it all, which questionable. I don't know how he got that gig. But in doing this, he put all the villains on a distant island called the Isle of the Lost, which they have no communication, no food. They get the scraps, actually. They get the scraps from Ordon, which is crazy. And they are poor because they don't get help. Um, which is so fun. So fun of him, so kingly of him. He's so morally right for that. So Ben, who is not even a fresh, he's 15 years old, barely gonna be 16. He's preparing to be king because that's tradition. But that should not be real. That's just rude. But the first book, we start off on the Isle of the Lost because this is before the first movie. Just a little intro to their lives before it. And we start the prologue off with 6-year-old little Mal who is looking off her balcony onto a birthday party going on. It's a rager birthday party. It's for another 6-year-old. It's for her. She's a little princess. Evie's a little princess because her mom's a queen. So she wants a big blow up party, and her mom is ready to deliver. But her mother was in charge of the guest list, okay? She said, don't invite Maleficent's daughter. I didn't win the election. Maleficent won the election for leader of the Isle of the Lost. I don't want her daughter there. I fucking hate her. Which, is it rude? Yes. Can I see where it's coming from? Yes. But little Mal is pissed about this. She said, why am I not invited to this birthday party that I should be invited to? This is my turf. I should be there. And Evie, unbeknownst to anything, she was like, oh, birthday party for me. Yay. But everyone else was here. All the children in the aisle were here. So, issues, because Mal's fucking pissed. So she tells her mother, she goes, I didn't invited to this birthday party. Why was I not invited to this birthday party? And her mom goes, oh, don't worry about that. We're going to banish these two to the outskirts of the aisle in this far off castle that they have to rot in for just forever. Can never come out. They get their groceries delivered, blah blah blah, and they do get banished. They stay for 10 years. We get a 10-year time jump, and Evie decides she wants to go to high school. She said, I'm going to go in the outside world because 10 years is too long, and I want to go to high school. Which, choices are made. Why would you want to go to high school? That seems like the most evil thing on the Isle, because why would you ever want to go there? She was in castle school before. Okay, she was learning princessy things, doing probably table manners. So Mal goes to the same high school. She hates it, but she also, it's about being evil. That's what the whole school is about. So she's like, oh, it's fun to a certain degree, but I also don't like doing school, which is so fair. So she's waking up from this dream of this mystery boy who is in a beautiful place by a lake. This mystery boy happens to look like this, but she doesn't know this is a prince because they have no communication at all on the Isle. So she's like, oh, this random boy with brown hair who happens to be pretty, and he's by a lake, and I'm in Oridon. She knows this because she's like, this is way too pretty to be on the Isle. I'm definitely in Oridon. But she's like, why am I dreaming of Oridon? That's weird. I'm going to brush this off like it never happened and go to school. So she meets her quote unquote bestie, Jay. They meet up on the way there, and they are besties by not by definition because they can't have friends on the Isle because they're evil, but they're besties. They're besties hardcore, and they're like definitely like platonic. Like there's no romantic thing ever here. And personally, I think that's because Mal's in love with Evie, but that's a discussion for another time. Because why would she be so mad about a birthday party? I get like childhood jealousy, but she could have just seen her with like, that's a pretty little girl. I know there was sex though, so I won't judge too harshly because they were six. But now the events to come, they're questionable. So Mal strolls up to school. Evie happens to be there because she's like, oh, for Save High School, fun. I get to go meet people. She sits in the front seat because she's like, oh, I want to go talk to teachers because like she's weird like that because I don't do that. And she happens to sit in Mal's seat, and Mal comes to her and she's like, no, that's my fucking seat. Get out of my way because for when I hate you, I banished you for 10 years and you're suddenly back because that's not allowed. You shouldn't be hating on my opinion. My opinion is correct, and this is my turf, and I actually run this place, so you cannot be back here. But also get out of my seat and go to the back of the classroom. So she does. Evie goes back to the classroom, and she sits next to this little nerd boy, Carlos. He's just a nerd that no one talks to. Poor guy is just smart. It just happened, and they form a little brother sister relationship. She's like, oh, he's such a little brother core. He's such a little brother core, and he is a year younger. Canonically, he is a year younger. I did not figure that out until this, I think, like the third book. So it's not important now. Just know that he's a year younger. Um, and jumping over to the Oridon side, we have Ben preparing to be king, of course. So his father puts him in charge of a business meeting for the sidekicks of the world, aka like the dwarves and the animal friends and all that, which are doing work for the kingdom. I might mention they're like doing labor jobs, aka the dwarves are mining with no wages, no money. So they come in there, they're like, we should get some payment back for what we're doing, actually, because we're giving you jewels, we're getting nothing back, we're just working all day. And Ben says, yeah, that's actually fair. That's actually fair. But the meeting devolves into just all of the groups of people arguing over each other. And Ben just blows up. He's like, gets up on the table and goes, just shut up, everyone. Like, this is not okay. And everyone looks at him and they're like, that's not very kingly of you. That's really fucked up. We're leaving. We're leaving, actually. So that meeting did not go well. He's very unconfident in his abilities to be king. So not good for him. But jumping back over here, we're at school, and Mal comes up with a brilliant idea. She's like, how can I get back at Evie for coming back into this world? I'm going to throw a party and not invite her to it. Because that's what she did to her. So she makes Carlos throw this party because she doesn't want to do it, which is so fair. And Carlos, terrified of Mal, but also terrified of his mother because he doesn't want to throw a party at Corella's house without her permission. But it happens to be that she's going to the spot this weekend, so the party's happening this weekend, baby. So he's more terrified of Mal, ultimately. So he throws the party. He's like, okay, I'll do it, I guess. And instead of Mal not inviting her, she thinks of a great plan. She's like, oh, I'll invite her, but she's going to get something at the party. And so she invites Evie. She goes, oh, yeah, like, you can definitely go to the party. It, like, bad blood, all gone. Like, you can go. And Evie goes, great. Like, I have friends now. Like, people like me. Because at the end of the day, she just wants to be likable. And don't we all, sometimes at least? And I love that for her. She just wants friends because she's been in a castle for 10 years with only her mother, who literally just talks to herself. And all Evie can do is read her spell books, which will come back later. Remember that detail. And Mal is just planning some little devious things, aka when the party rolls around, Mal goes there and she goes, oh, Evie, go over here to this closet. Throws her in the closet. Come into this closet, and then she pushes in there, locks the door. And Carlos is on the opposite side of the room. He knows that closet because him and Mal did a school project together once. And that closet is full of bear traps because it holds Corella's precious fur coats that she cannot give up, and she guards with bear traps. So Evie, terrified of her life because she's standing in like a circle of bear traps, and she goes, oh, So everyone hates me actually. But she's like, I'm gonna fucking die actually. Like I'm going to get my legs chopped off and it won't be funny. But Carlos comes in from the opposite side of the closet because it's double doored, and he saves her. Which we find out that that's his bed. He sleeps in the fur closet on the other side of the bear traps, but he can't sleep on the furs or like touch them. But like, he sleeps on the floor in that closet, which is fucked up. Cruella is honestly probably, you could claim she's the worst, but all of them have bad things. And Maleficent's more of like verbal abuse. She's like physical abuse. Genuinely, it's bad. Um, so Evie and Carlos have like a little. They're like, oh, like thanks for that, because she almost died, and that's kind of traumatic. And then she also like kind of feels bad for him because he sleeps in a closet, and she at least has a bed, even though it's not comfortable. She at least has a bed and a pillow, because Evil Queen, she has some leverage. She's like, I'm a queen, so I deserve queenly things. But um, jumping over to the other side of the closet, Mal is unaware of the fact that she got saved. She thinks she's still in that closet, but she is approached by this boy, and he's like, oh, like we should go out or we should uh, make out. I think that's like the forte of the owl, but I don't know. It's a children's book and they don't say that shit. So she she's like, no, I actually don't want anything to do with romance. And that's because deep down she thinks she has a human father, which if you've seen the Descendants franchise, you might think that's weird. That's weird for her to think because her father is not human. But I assume Maleficent just didn't tell her that. So she's under the impression, she's like, I don't want to be weak like my human father, because her Maleficent just calls him weak. She's like, oh, you're weak father. So she's like, I don't want anything to do with romance because my mother had me through romance. That's yucky. That's gross. And honestly, she might just be an asexual queen, and that's okay. That's a-okay. But I also think she's pan through and through, okay? Deb Cameron said it herself. She said, Mal's pan. And that's so true. She was so right in saying that. Also, Jay's just having the time of his life at this party. Just having fun, literally. Um, Back to them on the other side. They're in Corella's bedroom, I assume, where Carlos just also like does stuff because she's gone most of the time. But he made this little contraption because he's a nerd, so he's also an inventor, of course. He made this little contraption that's like he wants to get more TV channels because they have a TV, but they only get like Ordon News, boring shit like that. So he's like, oh, I think this will reach the receivers and I can get Ordon TV channels, which is so fun. So he turns it on because Evie figures out how to like fix a wire or something. She's smart underneath. They mention this a lot, but they never really do anything with it except for like right now. So she knows how to fix a wire or something. So the contraption works, and he turns it on. It sends a beam up to the magical barrier around the Isle of the Lost, which traps them all inside and puts a hole in it. Rumbles the whole Isle of the, but everyone's like, oh, it's just the party, blah blah blah. They don't notice. So, but he gets TV for a little bit. It's like for like 10 seconds or so, just like flipping through different channels of like, they actually mentioned Disney Channel shows that were like coming out at the time of the book, which is cool. Fun little thing. And they also mentioned Liv and Maddie, which Dev Cameron. So they're, Evie is like, oh yeah, like two girls that look exactly like Mal, which is so fun, just with blonde hair. With this hole in the barrier, some magic sleeps through because there's no magic on the Isle of Lost, of course. They're evil. So Maleficent's raven, her little sidekick, was turned to stone before sent off to the Isle because they don't want her to have happiness. And that's the end of the day. She was also brought back to life to be on the Isle, which fucking sucks because she died. I'm pretty sure, at least. I know she died. She was brought back to life. Um, no, but so her raven comes to life from stone to life. And she's like, huh. So there's magic sneaking through. That's important. Because I know that my scepter is somewhere out there. Okay, her magical item that she's holding right here, actually. It's somewhere out there, and it's now turned on because her raven's alive. So she's like, oh, that's definitely has magic in it. Then she's delusional, and we love. But Mal gets home from this party. She's like, that was fucking boring, actually, because like Eva didn't even like do anything. They probably got saved from that closet, and I did nothing. So I'm fucking bored. So she just goes home, and she walks into Maleficent, and then Maleficent's like, oh, like what'd you do at the party? And she was like, oh, partied, through a girl in a closet. But so she's like, oh, I have a mission for you. You're gonna go find my scepter, actually, because I think it's somewhere and you should go find it. And because my raven said so. My raven said it's actually here. And Mal goes, wait, back up 3 steps. Your raven's alive. It was stoned before. And she goes, yeah, it came alive. So my scepter is obviously here. So go get my scepter. And Mal's like, God fucking damn it. I hate you, Mom. But okay. Because maybe it's a ticket out of this god awful island. So she uh, decides to do it. She goes to bed though. Because she's like, oh, it's been a day. It's been too much of a day. Let's just figure this out tomorrow. And she wakes up the next morning. I assume it's a weekend. They could also just skip school. It's the Isle, so I don't care. She sees Jay and she's like, I should probably go with someone to find the stupid scepter because I don't know where it is, for one. And also it's probably pretty dangerous. So I'm just gonna commission someone. And Jay hears about this and he money signs go up in his head because Jafar owns a junk shop where he sells goods that Jay steals. Jay's a stealer. He's just a thief, and that's okay. Um, that petty theft is okay, and that's all he usually steals is like things off of people. But he says, I could steal the scepter. I could steal the scepter so bad, and I would make so much money, and my dad would be actually proud of me. An overarching theme: they want to make their parents proud, which fair, so fair. But that's why they do like all the stuff they do. Evie is more of just like if she's pretty, then her mom's happy, which like rickety. Um, Carlos is basically just a servant to his mother, which sucks on every level because like there's no winning in that regard. Literally, he's just terrified of her and does everything she says, and receives no attention back. AKA, he sleeps in a closet. Also, with that, Evie agreed to give him a little pillow, which is nice. They're so brother and sister. It's not even funny. Um, so Jay agrees. He's like, I'll go on this crazy adventure with you if it's money for me. And also Jafar overhears this and he goes, you should go get that bag. So he's locked in. With this adventure, Mal thinks it's a bright idea. She goes, the scepter has a curse that whoever touches it falls asleep for 1,000 years. Who do I really want to get a revenge against? Evie. I'm going to invite her along at the false pretense of being friends. So she sees her in the public market that they have and goes, Evie, I have like such a fun thing to do. We should go find my mom's scepter. And Evie's like, I know you're fucking fibbing, but I'm not going to say anything because I want friends and also I want to see what you have planned. So she's like, okay, I'll go. That's fine. And then Evie's also desperate for friends. And so when Jay and Mal are talking about the hole in the barrier, aka what gave the magic, blah, 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 Evie's like, oh, the hole in the barrier? I know what caused that. I was there. It was Carlos. And so drags poor little Carlos into the mix, aka he now has to um, deal with this whole mess because they go to his house and they're like, yeah, we want your contraption thing. We also want to see how it works and how it caused a hole in the barrier. And he's like, it doesn't fucking work anymore. I literally broke it doing so. So Mal's like, oh, that's really fucking embarrassing because you should fix it. You should actually fix it and I want it now. And then they figure out that it's like a beacon of magic. Like it goes towards magic, which is funky, which is weird. So they have to bring Carlos around. But the only problem is Carlos hasn't done his chores. After the party, it's a mess. It's the whole house is a mess. He has to do dishes, blah blah blah. Because if he doesn't do chores, he's gonna probably get fucking killed by his mother. So they all help with the chores because they're like, we need to get going on this adventure as soon as possible. So they all help, and it's all fine and dandy. And then his mom comes home, and she comes home with like saying like very nice things. She's like, "Oh my god, the love of my life," and they're all looking at Carlos. So like, you really you're scared of your mom when she's this nice to you. But now she's talking about um like her furs and her specifically her car in this scenario. Her car's dirty, so she has Carlos wash her car by hand because they don't have car washes, obviously. But so they have to then clean her goddamn car before they can leave, and it takes a while, but they finally do it. And before we go on this little adventure, we hop back over to Oridon, and Ben is talking to his lovely girlfriend Audrey, about the wage gaps, of course, how sidekicks aren't getting wages, and the privilege is showing through. She says, "Why would they need wages? Everyone loves them. Popularity does not equal money. They don't have money. They might have a place to. They definitely have a place to live. I would guess. The, I would sure hope so, but they don't have money. No, they don't get paid. So she is just like off her own little la la land. Well, Ben is like, oh my god, like this is a lot of work. Like Ben, like king work is a lot of work. So he's thinking, he's like, the Isle of the Lost, that's an interesting place. Like, what happened to all of the children? You know, like they didn't do anything and they're still locked up on that island. And Audrey's like, no, like they're villains though. They're like actually villains and they should stay there and they should be locked up forever. And Ben's like, okay, like I get the adults, like they did it's crazy shit. But like the kids didn't do anything. And she's like, don't ever speak of this again. Like, this is actually a sore subject because my mom literally got cursed. Which, like, I get it, but calm down. Calm down for real. But then she's like, oh, we shouldn't worry about this anymore. We should just be in love. And they like dance in the forest. And this is the moment that I had to put it on her. She sings to birds. She talks to birds, and she also sings a song from Sleeping Beauty out loud, like while they're dancing, which is interesting. Definitely a canonical thing that you can have. She just sings out loud. And like I get that it's a musical. The Descendants is a musical, but like why is she singing in there's no cameras there? Like that's crazy. Anyway, they dance in the forest and then Ben's like, my girlfriend's pretty, but I don't love her because I'm dreaming of this other girl. Problematic, Ben. Break up with your girlfriend. Yeah, because I'm bored. Back to their adventure. We don't know where this wonderful scepter is. We have no idea what it is. I think they know that it's on this mysterious island because I think Maleficent knows that, but they don't know how to get there. They don't know anything about it. So they have to go to the library in their school, which it is a forbidden library because they don't want them to read. Also, it's filled with a bunch of like extra evil stuff, I think. I don't know. Well, the story is that they bribed their headmaster, Dr. Facilier, with tarot cards. He's just happy with that. He's like, okay, so fair. I'm done. Like, you can go in the library. Here's the key. So they go in there, they read about their island, they find a map in the library that is only it's technically a blank map, but they're like, why isn't this showing up? Because they're like, oh, like it's trick of the light, it's invisible ink. And then Carlos, the chemistry brain himself, because he's a nerd, he figures out that they need a specific chemical to make the invisible ink show up. A little while back, while Jay was at school doing petty theft, he stole this vial that someone else stole. He just stole it out of their bag because they stole it. And he was like, I want to steal it back, even though it wasn't mine to begin with, because he's just special like that. So he decides to steal it. And this happens to be the chemical that they need for the map. Convenient. So he uses that. They figure out from the map they have to go to a specific spot, like on the Warsh or something like that. So they have to talk to goblins because they control the boats coming in from Oridon and all that. Okay, how they get like supplies and food and all that. So they have to convince a goblin to let them take a boat, even though goblins hate humans because humans also abuse goblins. I know we all hate like, ew goblins, but like they're also being abused. We should talk about that. They have to convince a goblin to let them use a boat, and they get a shitty ass boat that's like falling apart. But they get a boat. That's all that matters. They make it to this big island that is covered in thorns around this big fortress, and like the scepter has to be there because it's a big fortress and it looks very Maleficent-esque. And so they're like, we got to cut through these thorns though. So they start hacking away on them. But then we jump back to Oridon. Ben gets a round two with his business meeting that he fucked up last time. So he handles it very kingly. He has a solution for everyone. He goes, I read your proposals, guys. I can find a solution. Do I remember what the solutions are? No. All I remember is that he gives them some pay, which is money, and that's a crazy concept to actually pay your workers. What the fuck, Gordon? And they honestly, how did a 16-year-old do better than a 40-year-old king that's been making the country? No, that's bad. We should talk about that. But that's basically it for Ben's era on this book. He just is doing king things. That's all he does. And honestly, for all the books, Ben gets very, very boring. Little side plots that are not important. They're the B plots, aka the Ben plots. They're boring on every account, and they're never fun. So it's just the way of the world. But back to them. They finally hack through these thorns. They're all scratched off, blah, blah, blah. And they get hit with a mudslide. It starts raining really hard, and they get hit with a mudslide. And Carlos just brings up Newton. If you, I get he's a nerd, but he doesn't have to know every nerd thing. He's okay. Like he's okay just being a normal person. He doesn't have to bring up Newton when they're in a mudslide. Once they get into this fortress, okay, they're only on the bridge to it. They get hit. They each get a little trial. The first one up is Carlos. Poor guy. He already brought up Newton, so he's getting punished for it. They get to this bridge, and these big gargoyles show up, and they're like shaking the bridge hardcore. They're like, we can't get past these gargoyles. They're gonna like eat us. And so the gargoyles have these. They're like trolls on a little bridge, so they have riddles, and they are very fun riddles. I'll give them that, but they don't really make sense. The first one, they're all about his mother basically, and they're all like, oh, like what lipstick does she wear? And he doesn't fucking know that, but Evie does because she knows all the lipsticks because she's a beauty guru. So she answers with the lipstick name. I did have quotes for these, but I lost them. The ebook did not save them, so we're just dealing with what we have. Um, And so it's safe for that question. It's like they have to answer like 3 questions. The next one is, what's her one true love? And that is her first. At the end of the day, is not Carlos, and it is her first. So he answers that a little begrudgingly. He's like, oh, God, my mother doesn't fucking love me at all. That's really depressing. Which, like, it is. Poor guy. He did not deserve that. But I think there's one more question, but I do not remember it for the life of me. Moral of the story: they get past the gargoyles. That's all that matters. They get into the wonderful fortress. First one up, inside the fortress, is Jay. They enter into a big mouth of a like doorway. It is the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin, which, yeah, fun. And he sees a bunch of gold, and he's like, "Oh, I want some of that." But then they start drowning in sand. That sand is just pouring in from everywhere, and they are literally drowning. Evie is about to die from like like how they do like quicksand stuff like that. And because she's wearing heels throughout this whole thing, I'd like to mention Evie's wearing heels throughout I think every single book, which is just wow, that's a choice and a half. But more of the story, she can't get any traction on that sand because she's wearing heels. But he is asked what the golden rule is. And early in the book, he was told by his father that the golden rule is whoever is winning has the most gold. Funny little wordplay. So he remembers this in a stroke of luck when Evie's about to get completely under the sand. And he goes, the person who has the most gold is the winner, like, is the best. And then all the sand empties out, and then they can walk out of that room. And their trial is done for that. It basically they're just trying to keep them away from the scepter, but they're very specific challenges because there's like magic in the fortress somehow. Don't ask me how, because they don't have magic on the island, but they have magic in the fortress. Don't know. And then they come into this little room that has a mirror on it, and they're like, "Oh, interesting." Evie is the first to walk in here, and she sees that she's an old hag in this mirror, and she goes, "Fuck no, this is my worst nightmare. I love being pretty," because that's all she was taught as a child, and she's like, "Okay, this is so horrible." Then she looks down at her skin. She does have old skin. She is an old hag herself, and so are all 4 of them. They're like, "Okay, this is really inconvenient." And then the mirror says, "What's the ingredients to your mom's hag spell? That's how you get rid of this curse." And she goes, "Oh, I fucking love reading that spell book because that's all I can do in my boring ass castle." So she names it. She's like, "Oh, I know that one." Um, and she is back to young, and she's like, "Oh my God, I've never been so happy. I've never appreciated my beauty so much before because I'm pretty again." And finally, since all 3 of the other children had their trials, Mal can go get her scepter. Now, this is important because she wanted to curse Evie for 1,000 years, but over this journey, she's kind of starting to like her. She's like, "Oh, she's alright, I guess," and she's also really pretty. But that's me adding it. But they're in love. Um, and so she's like, "I don't really want to do that anymore." So right when Evie's about to reach for the scepter, without knowing that it's going to curse her, Mal goes, "Wait, don't do that." And she jumps up herself and grabs it. She's conked out for a nap. She does not, since she's Maleficent's daughter, she does not go to sleep for 1,000 years. But she does go for a little nap, and there's like a huge like blast too, I'm pretty sure. So then like all 3 of them are kind of like bewildered. But throughout this whole journey, they kind of felt like someone was like following them. So they're like, that's weird, but it must be the creepiness of the fortress and everything. But turns out her raven, Diablo, was following them the whole time and snacked up the um scepter when Mal was asleep. So now Maleficent knows about all that, and yeah. But more of the story is that they don't get the scepter and they go home begrudgingly. They're like, "Oh, we failed. Like we failed to do that. Our parents are gonna be so fucking mad." But Mal goes back first, and then her mother's like, "Yeah, I got the raven to go get it for you because I know you couldn't do it. Because I know you're not evil enough, and I know that you didn't curse Evie, and you should have. It would have been the evil thing to do." And she goes back home, and then her mother's like, "You're filthy. Oh my God, you're ugly. You're a disappointment." Also, she says, "You're a disappointment since you're not evil enough." Carlos gets back home. All her furs are on the floor, and she's like, "What the fuck is this? You're a disappointment." He goes back home, and Jafar's like, "Did you get the scepter?" And he's like, "No, I actually didn't. Like that did not happen." And Jafar's like, "You're such a disappointment. Like, why are you not bringing in money?" But at the end of the day, even though they disappoint all their parents, they now have this like little friendship brewing that they all don't like their parents, and their parents don't like them. So they're friends now. They're the cute little um foursome, but not in that way. Um, so they're besties, but not by definition, of course. Um, and that's the end of the first book. Is them hanging out together, and they probably make their hit single of "Rotten to the Core" at that time. They go having their little dance parties around town. Yes, that is the first book. Ben ends with still a girlfriend, even though he doesn't love her, and about to be king and doing his prep work. And he's more confident now. He's like, "I can do this because I know how to properly communicate," unlike his father, probably. He's probably a better king, but that's just what I said. And he's 16 years old, and I still think that's a stupid tradition. But I think the country would have been in shambles if he was in power anymore. So that is the end of the first book. And then the first movie happens, aka all four of these get invited to Oridon in the VK program, which he commissions because he's like, I want the kids of the Isle to come over because I think that's okay. Okay, and he picks like probably the worst one. His girlfriend is literally a victim of Maleficent's crimes, but at the end of the day, maybe he knew. Maybe he knew this is the girl from his wonderful dream. And this would explain so much more the scene in the first movie where they like make eye contact and they're like immediately in love because they dreamed about each other. It's good lore, and shout out to Melissa De La Cruz for doing that. We love that. And then after the first movie, they didn't know if they were going to get a second, so they made this little animated series that was called Wicked World. Doesn't really follow the lore, I'll give it that, but they made a book that goes along with Wicked World, which causes problems because is this book canon? Is it not? We'll get into that because that book is interesting. It's interesting for sure because we have a lot of new characters that do exist, but I don't think the plot points of Wicked World happen. But I'll give a plot summary of Wicked World as well. I'm back in a different outfit, and you might be saying, well, if you were dressed as Evie last time, what are you dressed as now? This was my best attempt at a Mal cosplay because I don't own any purple. So here we have the one purple shirt that I own. It's his birthday, and that's all I have. That's all I have for you. So this is all I can do. You might be looking at this board. You say, that's the ugliest fucking shit I've ever seen. And you'll be correct because this ugly ass yellow was from the Descendants wiki page. It is really ugly, and that's just the way of the world because that's what they wanted me to put on here if they had it on the wiki. Here we have the Wicked World characters as they are in the animated show, which I will just be using them for the second book because it's in the Wicked World universe if it has the characters in my mind. That's how it works. So Mal, Evie, Carlos, Jay, new character of Freddie Facilier, aka daughter of Dr. Facilier, their headmaster from the first book. She, in Wicked World, the show, she is transported onto Ordon by freak magic because magic rules literally do not matter in Wicked World. They are thrown out the window, aka Fairy Godmother's daughter. She just has magic, even though she does not have it in any of the movies, does not exist. So we're just gonna ignore that. Also, Audrey gets a weird redemption arc in Wicked World where she like is understanding of the Isle kids and all that. But at the end of the day, her character doesn't change in the movies or in the books a little bit, in the second book a little bit. So, but overall, the arc of Wicked World is an introduction of a character called CJ Hook, who is Captain Hook's daughter. She goes on to Ordon to just make mischief. She literally does nothing. She crashes one of their high school dances and calls it a day. And then there's a in the second season there is another character, Zevon, who's voiced by Bradley Stephen Perry. Fun fact. So that's the only reason that I like remember him. He also just wanted to create little mischief. The only thing I remember was that he possessed some puppets to try and like attack people. They bit people, I think. So at least some violence is involved. And that's kind of it. That's all Wicked World really accomplishes. It wasn't made for actual lore points. Hence why people don't think it's canon, because some points of it don't match with the story. So those parts aren't canon, but some of it's canon in my mind, aka I think the events of this book is canon. I personally believe that. At least some of it. I think the characters are canon, and I do think that the events that happened with the core four did happen and like in the lore. I think that is true. Up here we have Ben still here, and then another character is Jordan. She's the daughter of the genie. She has her own lamp. She lives in it, which is fun. Chad is still here, but he is Audrey's boyfriend now because they broke up because Mal and Ben are now together, and they're in their honeymoon stage actually in this book, very much so. They're because they just got together, they're in love, blah blah blah, and Evie gets this. It's a boyfriend. It's a boyfriend for sure. He is a son of Dopey, and he's a nerd, but not in the Carlos way. As in, he's a suspenders and frame glasses kind of nerd, and like bow ties. So he's kind of like a Reddit incel, if you will. And I don't like him, not only because I think that these two should be in love, but because he's weird. objectively, but he does run her business for her. So get a man who will get you your finances, and that's okay. Um, so yeah, they're together. Lonnie is down here. She's the daughter of Mulan. She is in this book, and in Wicked World, she is just a character in there. She had to go on the board then. And then these will be introduced later in the book. So we are coming off of the first movie, meaning the whole plot of the first movie happened. Maybe not the whole plot of Wicked World, because that's finicky. So I'm just rolling with that none of the plot happened of Wicked World, except for the fact that Freddy is now in Oregon. Standing issue, though, with Freddy being there is that they say she's issued in with a VK program. Technically, the VK program by name is never drafted until the third movie. So that doesn't exist in lore yet. But whatever, we'll let it slide. It's literally the same exact thing of how these four got over, but they just give it a name in this book that didn't exist until the third movie, which she got the scripts ahead of time. Shout out Melissa De La Cruz. Like, she got the scripts ahead of time to write the books because they came out before the movies to like gain popularity and everything. So at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. And this book just focuses, at the beginning, focuses them doing schoolwork in Oregon. They're all going to school, and Mal is enjoying being the artiste she is, aka she's only likes her art classes, none of the other ones, which is so fair. The rest, and Evie is making dresses. That's her thing that she likes to do because she knows how to sew, and so she makes dresses for everyone for the school dances. Carlos is just doing school because he's a nerd and he doesn't have any problems. Jay is over here playing tourney, which is like football but insane. AKA, it's like a mix of ultimate frisbee, rugby, and lacrosse, kind of like that. So he's playing that. He's enjoying his time. He loves beating up people, I guess. And from all four of their POVs in the chapters, we get them experiencing an earthquake that's they describe as being frequent now in Oregon, which is weird because they never get earthquakes. That's not normal. So they're like, oh, another earthquake. That's so annoying. They're not questioning why it's there. They don't even want to. And Ben, as king, he is now king, crowned king and everything. He should be worrying about that, but he isn't. He's in La-di-da land with his new girlfriend and his kingly duties that involve business meetings that probably don't matter, as Oregon usually rolls. And they all four of them get a mysterious message that's telling them to leave Oregon and go to the Isle of the Lost for the something about a moon rising or something like that. More of the story is that Maleficent kept time in like moon calendars or something like that. So Mal thinks it's from her mother, even though her mother is now a lizard. Because at the end of the first movie, she gets turned into a lizard. So she is still a lizard. She's being kept as prisoner as a lizard. So she knows that her mother isn't free, but she's like, then who's sending these messages? That's weird. So they all get messages. Mal gets it through a text because she's checking her text for Ben because that's how they communicate because he's always off doing kingly duties. Evie gets a post on social media because Oregon social media exists. It's like Instagram, but it's just for Oregon. And she gets a comment that says like, "There's no place for you here," which is honestly the meanest one out of all of the like messages that they received because honestly, she's out of the core four, she's the one who like should be in Oregon out of the most anyway. She takes a little offense to that. She's like, that's really rude. But it says the same thing like before the moon rises or something like that. And then Carlos gets one through email because he checks his email very often for some reason. But the special thing about Carlos is that it includes a website, which he has to like hack into because he's a nerd. So they know he can do that. And Jay gets one just a plain old like paper note because he apparently is not on his phone, which is fair. He's just offline, and that's okay. And they all come together, and they're like, "Oh, that's weird. We all got notes. That's really weird. We should go actually because Mal thinks it's from her mother, and they think that their parents are behind it. They said our parents are actually sending these, and they want us back at the Isle, and we have to go check out what's going on." And along with their school activities, we have Jay playing tourney as he's doing, but then Chad over here is literally like throwing him to the ground. He gave him a black eye. He canonically gave him a black eye, and just like he was like, "Oh, like you shouldn't be here." So he is discriminating. He's literally, and then Audrey is the voice of reason over here, which is crazy from the first movie because she was very anti all of the Isle influence. But now she's like, that's really weird. Don't give him a black eye. And also, She's surprised that they got their scraps as food. She doesn't. She apparently she didn't know that. I feel like she would have, but whatever. It's not a plot hole just because she could have not known. They didn't really tell anything about the Isle, so it's okay. With Ben's kingly duties, he is gets a report of a monster terrorizing this city of Camelot, aka King Arthur, and all that. And here we are introduced to Merlin, aka the wizard in King Arthur, and he wants his magic back so he can go defeat this monster. And Ben, King of Oradon, which has no magic for some fucking reason, which no one explains. Like, why can't you use magic when you have it? That's stupid. That's a stupid rule. And Merlin asks, he's like, "Can I have at least my wand? I just want to like kill this monster, have it. It's burning down cities. Like, please let me have my magic." And Ben's like, "I gotta go talk to the council. Actually, they gotta give an okay for that, even though I have total authority. But I'll go ask for you." And he asks the fairies from Sleeping Beauty, because somehow they're like the authority figure for magic, and they say no. They say, "No, we actually don't want to use magic. I think you should try and reason with the monster." That's definitely a choice to have. I don't know. It didn't work. Spoiler alert, it did not work. I don't know how they thought that was going to be a good idea. But Ben says, "Okay, I guess you're like, you have more experience than me. I guess I'll just tell Merlin that." So Merlin, dejected as fuck, he's like, "You got to go check out these cities that are being burned." Then Ben goes, "Okay, I'll go with you to visit Camelot." When he goes to visit Camelot, he sees that it's a dragon. The monster we have is a dragon. It's a purple dragon. The only other purple dragon that he's seen that looks exactly like this is Maleficent's dragon. And he goes, "Fuck, that's bad." Because she's in captivity, but why is her dragon here? And he has security cams of the lizard of Maleficent being kept in prison. But suddenly there's a purple dragon rolling around. And he's like, "That's really bad. I have to talk to Mal about this when I get home." It takes a while to journey back from Camelot. So we got some time for development from these four. Um, and they decide to go to the Isle for some reason, but then they have trouble because they have a school dance this weekend. They can't go right now. They have a school dance. So they go to their quote unquote like homecoming game. It's basically their homecoming dance. It's called Castle Coming, which you've seen the fourth movie, and that's in there too. And that's a weird lore detail that they apparently just had in the back door, or they stole it off of this book. Who knows? I actually do love that detail if they just stole it. Jay and Carlos have to both play in this game because they're both on the training team. Of course they are. So they stay for the game, and then Evie's like, "I made all these dresses for the wonderful dance. I want to go." And Jabal's like, "Okay," but we sneak out during the dance to avoid suspicion. Their ingenious plan is to go as themselves, hang out for a little bit, and then dress up in exact copies of Audrey and Lonnie's dresses to get out and go to the royal limo to get to the Isle because it has the remote to bring down the barrier. Which, like, fine, it's a plan, I guess, but like, it's not a great one. And during this dance, Carlos does dance with Jane, who is Fairy Godmother's daughter, and she has a really bad haircut. Okay, it's throughout the first movie, and then it changes. Blah blah blah. Her whole hair, actually, her whole arc in the first movie, it's kind of dependent on her hair, but it's bad. Um, and so he says that he likes this fuck ass bob because it's, I don't know. I guess he's really in love with her because I would not be saying that. It's a bad haircut. And her Wicked World haircut is very pretty, very pretty. It has like little red streaks and very reminiscent of my hair right now, but that wasn't the inspiration, but it could have been. It was really fucking pretty and I loved it. And they did do it in the second movie. They had her little red streaks and I do love that. Also, along with all their notes, he had the website that he can hack into. They found out what day that they had to be on the Isle, so that's why they're leaving today, the day of the dance. Unless they could have just left the next day, but no, they have to leave today. They have to leave tonight. So they find out that they have they're like enemy number one on the Isle. So they're like, we got to be careful when we go back because on the website that they cracked, it's this dark web of that the Isle people can use, even though they have no Wi-Fi, but they found out a way around it. So they're public enemy number one. They're terrified. They're like, "Oh, we got to be careful when we get back." But as they're driving out the limo, their plan surprisingly fucking worked. They get hit. They're about to run into the royal carriage, and they're like, "Fuck!" And then Mel's like, "No, it's fine. It's just Ben. Ben's coming back from Camelot. It's okay." And so Ben's like, "What the fuck are you four doing in the royal limo at night?" And then Mal explains the entire thing, and he goes, "Yeah, I trust you guys. You go check that out. That's okay." And he explains how there's a purple dragon in Camelot, and she goes, "But my mother's in prison. I just saw her like the other day." And he goes, "Yeah, that's weird. So we have to go check that out." And then she goes, "Just in case." don't hurt the dragon, because she still has a little bit of emotional attachment to her mother, even though her mother is abusive. It's understandable. So he goes, of course not. Like, I would never do that. I love you and have fun in the aisle. Which none of them really do, but problem arises when they get into the limo and they realize that Jay can't fucking drive, even though he said he could. He just thought he would pick it up when he gets in the car, which is so fair. That's how I expected driving as well. Um, so Carlos admits that he kind of knows how to drive because his mom had a car and she made him drive him around places. So he can do a decent amount. But when they get across the barrier, all goes, he can get it across the bridge. He crashes the fucking car because, of course, he does. So now they have a broken limo and a broken return device. I might like they can't put down the barrier again. Editing Natalie here. To question why I was calling it a return device. It's not like they like magically transport it back when they use it. It's you open the barrier with it. It's a remote. She tried. Okay, it's the kid who hears brain rot. If you know, you know. I'm not explaining that reference. I'm afraid that I don't have the heart to. But maybe video in the future, to say the least. But it is my third time editing this video because of storage issues. Turns out a 2-hour video is not just a tiny little file that I can save to my 2017 MacBook. So we're having some issues, but I hope it works this time. Because if I re-edit this again, no one will ever see this because I'm not uploading at that point. So I don't know what they were planning on getting out of here. That was not a worry for them, but it broke. Like that remote broke, which is concerning. And they decide to all go to their houses because they're like, oh, we got to go check if our parents are behind these notes. And Evie does try when they're back in Oridon to try and like see their parents through her magic mirror because they can just like show anyone that she asked for, and they're not to be found, which is weird because they're not in their houses. They're not even shown on the mirror. And she's like, oh, that's really weird. Personally, my headcanon would be that they're dead, but that's sadly not what happens. Would have been cool though. Would have been a cool detail because they're never mentioned or they're never shown in like any of the movies or books. So I feel like it would have been a fun detail if they were just dead. But maybe that's too dark. It's a children's book after all. So once they get over there, they're gonna go check out their houses because like maybe there's clues as to where they are. And Carlos and Evie live on like the same side of the aisle, so they go together and they meet Carlos's 2 little British friends from the first book, the sons of Corella's sidekicks, and they are being shady. They're being very shady, and they're also still British. I still think that's really funny. The fact that there's British people on the aisle that just doesn't clock in my head. I know Harry Hook is Scottish, okay, but we're not getting to him. That's next book. But like that's crazy that there's British people. They have Cockney accents as well, which I will not be mimicking because I can't fucking do them. But they're funny, okay? They're really funny. But they're being hella shady. They're like, oh, like, what are you doing here? Like, did you get a message by chance? So they're being fucking shady. And now they think it's for sure a trap. They're like, oh, our parents definitely planned this then. Because how would they know about that? And when Jay goes to the junk shop to see where his father is, he finds Jafar's pet parrot starved. Call PETA for real. He abandoned his parrot, didn't take him with him, and just let him starve there. That's insane. Also, Jay did feed him, I'm pretty sure. 90%. I don't remember. But he could have, which is good. Good act of him. Also, he sells some stuff to people, gives them a discount, gives stuff for free because he's good now. He does that shit. Popping over to Ben's kingly duties with the dragon business. He needs DNA proof that it's Maleficent before they take action. Because if it's Maleficent, they're just fucking killing the thing, which is crazy. But they also brought them back to life to put them on the Isle, so it's not crazy for Oridon. And so he needs DNA proof, but he needs to go hunt for it. So he has to go do some investigating in Camelot, and he ends up going to a like cave or something that has a scale, and he's like, oh, that's interesting. And he brings it to Neverland with the fairies there to test the DNA. I don't know why that it works in Neverland like that. They just have fairies that do that. So that's how it works. So they're he's off doing that. Well, the 4 of them are still confused as fuck. Why is no one on the aisle? And Mal, when she goes back to her house, meets her old friend called Mad Maddie. She is the descendant of someone who will be introduced later. So she is literally just like Mal when she was on the aisle, little conniving bitch, if you will. That's all she does, and that's okay. That's what I'll core. Okay. When they all group back up, they're in the market, the public market, and Mal's with Maddie still because they're like catching up, blah blah blah. And Evie's sensing some weird vibes from Maddie. She's like that's a weird girl, and also she's a little bit jealous because like Mal is her bestie, but also I think it's because she's in love with Mal. But that's another discussion. Um, no, she's a little bit jealous. Also, very hesitant. She's like, that bitch is kind of weird, and I don't know if we should trust her. Because also, it's the Isle. You shouldn't really trust anyone. So whatever. The time for the meeting rolls around, and it's actually in the basement of Evie's castle. So that's another reason why I think our parents are definitely behind this. If it's in my mother's castle, but they find no sign of their parents when they go searching. So they're like, maybe they just like up and left. I don't know where they went. But they go to this meeting. They're like, we're gonna sneak in and scout it out. But it seems like everyone knows they're coming. Every person that they meet is very like, oh, like something tonight is happening. And they're like, okay, this is a fucking trap. We gotta sneak in for real. And they don't manage that because everyone knows they're coming. So they find out that the person running this is their old teacher, Yen Sid, who was like a teacher brought in from Oregon to teach the Isle kids chemistry. I'm not even lying. He's just a chemistry teacher. Why are they learning chemistry, actually? That's like, why? Why is that necessary for these evil children to know chemistry? Unless they're like working in potions, but they don't really learn potions in the chemistry class. Whatever. He's running a anti-hero league, which by definition sounds like, oh, we hate the heroes. But he wants it in the Taylor Swift variety, aka he wants the redeemable heroes, the anti-heroes. And when they get to this meeting, they have cake. They have a real cake, which is I don't know how they got that on the Isle, but one of the stories they have some real cake as a meeting. And almost every like teenager their age is in this club. Mad Maddie is in this club, which will come back to bite them later. But and like the two British boys are in there. That's why they were acting shady because they were just like trying not to spill the secret of like what the club was. And um, they find out that Freddie was the one who sent the messages because she was the only one in Oregon. That makes sense. And they just signed it as Maleficent because she knew that Mal wasn't taken seriously if it wasn't from her mother. So she figured it all out. Shout out to Freddie. We love her. Um, Also, fun fact: Freddie in the Wicked World show is voiced by China McClain, and China McClain then goes on to act as Uma in the later movies. So problems, but she slays. After they have their cake, have their party, Yensid tells them that there is magic in the tunnels underneath the Isle of the Lost because when the barrier went up, all the magic got pushed down to the tunnels underneath, and they have to go find their parents in the tunnels because their parents are down there looking for magic talismans that all relate to them. I don't know why specifically the four, or like the technically three, Maleficent is still on the Ordon. She is a lizard in Ordon, but she still has a talisman down there. I don't know why all four of them got talismans. It's a very random like group of people, but it's for convenience sake. That's what the plot is. So they don't know where these tunnels like they have a map, but they don't know where the entrance is. So they're scouting out. They all have assignments of where they have to go to scout out the entrance to this. And Gensid tells them all one specific like comment for each of their journeys. He tells Evie that she always has friends and to never feel alone. Mal that she needs help sometimes and should let her friends help her. Carlos that he shouldn't let his heart dictate what his head sees. And then Jay that he is happy where he is. And they all hear these and they're like, what the fuck? That makes no sense. But it'll make sense later. So along with these tunnels, there is theory that they lead to Oridon. So that's problem number one because they're like, we got to get down there before our parents find their talismans and then go to Oridon because that is a problem. And the barrier does not work down there apparently because I assume like magic doesn't matter for that. So it's a good thing that they have these tunnels unless they wouldn't have had a way out of the Isle. Unless Ben would have known they were there. So I guess he could have like search and rescue team for real. That I guess would have been the fix. But as they're getting their assignments and things are happening, Mal sees Mad Maddie slip out of the room. And she's like, that's weird. I'm going to go follow her, actually. I'm going to go sneak up on her. But Mad Maddie, as she's an Isle girl after all, she hears someone following her. So she's like, Mal, I know you're following me. That's really weird of you. But I'm just scouting out because I have this meeting. Because I got a note that says, like, your parents are gonna meet us here. And Mal's like, why didn't you like tell anyone then? That's kind of weird. And Mallory's like, no, it's fine. Like, I didn't tell anyone, but like, I know they're gonna be here, so we should wait here. And Mal's like, I don't fucking trust you, but I'm gonna stay here because in case you do some shady shit. And lo and behold, she does some shady shit. But little did they know that Evie was following them the whole time because she was concerned by Mal was following Mad Maddie out of the room. So after following for a little bit, she runs back to the room because she's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And then she tells both Jay and Carlos, and they're like, we got to go get them real quick. And they find out that they're right next to like this cove, like this bridge thing. And so they run down there. They make it just in time for Mad Maddie to jump Mal with a bunch of other villain kids and throw her in the lake. Canonically, Mal cannot swim. She cannot swim at all. She will drown when she gets pushed into this lake. So thank God the other three were here, unless she would have died. She would have died, and it would have been a little bit funny. The rest of the villain kids just like run off after they try and drown someone, and Carlos jumps in because he can swim. I don't know how he learned, but he jumps in to save. Oh no, he can doggy paddle. It was a funny little joke because dogs. Yeah, he can doggy paddle. So he goes in to save Mal and gets her out of the water. And there's crocodiles in this water as well. They were planning to not only drown her, but feed her to crocodiles. So Jay distracts the crocodiles while Evie helps Carlos and Mal get out of the water. And they're all like soaked now a little bit. So they head back to, I think it's Mal's house to get clothes, just change clothes because she is absolutely soaked to the bone and she's not happy about it. But through this adventure from underwater, they find out that the entrance to the catacombs, aka the tunnels, is um, through this cave that it can be accessed underwater because a bunch of crocodiles are guarding it. That's weird. They're like, okay, we just got to track that back to where it is on land. And they do just that. And they find the entrance. They're like, okay, let's go. Let's go on this adventure. They all have their tasks, of course, as in first book fashion as well. They all have their trials. Evie's talisman is a poison apple. And they finally get to it. And they also hear something following behind them in the catacombs. And they go, that's like creepy. That's creepy as fuck. I don't want to worry about that. They're like, okay, maybe it's like no big deal. Maybe it's just like a wild animal or something like that. Like we can deal with that. They finally get to her apple tree, which has a bunch of apples, and she's like, how am I supposed to know which one it is? So she climbs up the tree and finds one. She's like, that's the apple right there. But she sees it and immediately wants to bite it so bad. She's like, that looks like such a good apple. And she does. She fucking bites it because she's a dumbass. So she gets transported to this like mental la la land because she falls asleep. She actually falls out of a tree. She falls out of the tree when she falls asleep from the apple, which that's gotta fucking hurt. And I'm surprised she didn't break a bone. But she is set in front of the big magic mirror, and the magic mirror is preying on all her insecurities and all her bad thoughts. It says like, your friends don't like you. Your friends are gonna leave you. Like they do not love you. And she remembers what Yen Sid said. She goes, no, my friends will always stick by me. They love me actually. And um she gets out of the daze of the magic mirror, but she's still like loopy as fuck because she was literally poisoned. And but she now has the talisman. She has her apple talisman. That's great. And when she gets out of this daze, Mal makes a absolutely bad joke of Doug kissing her for True Love's kiss. And if you know the third movie, then you know that actually fucking happened. But that just makes me icky because I don't like Doug. Nothing against him as a character necessarily, but everything against him as a character because I don't like him. Next stop, we have Jay's talisman, and they get transported to a door opens to Agrabah, which is just sand. It's a bunch of sand, and they see a little like snake thing in the sand, which his talisman is the cobra staff. So he goes, "That's my talisman right there. I just got to catch it." They chase it, and like a magical barrier, they get like locked out of where he has to go to get this cobra, and it's a huge room full of gold and everything else. And the cobra talks to Jay, and he's like, "You could have all of these riches if you go through this like curtain instead of going back to your friends." And then Jay's like, "No, I have everything I need. I have my tourney team. I have my friends." He's just he's just high school jock, and that's okay. We typecasting is okay, except for the nerd variety. I don't enjoy that, which is shown here. After Jay gets his staff because he says no, he has the staff, and Carlos is out there reading a book. He said, "Oh, we got a few minutes to wait. Let me read my book that I brought here." Why would you bring a fucking book into the catacombs? It's my question. But you know what? Slay for him. He's reading. He's having fun. And I was reading while reading these books. So can I really blame him? No. I wonder what he was reading. That's my question. Because it just the book that he brought. but I want to know what he was reading. And next, they have a little door that opens up to a modern city. They're like, oh, urban city, weird. And this turns out to be Carlos's talisman. And he has to go to this shop full of like fur coats and everything. And Cruella in the flesh is there. And he goes, that's weird. So you already found your talisman? And she goes, of course I did. I'm like the best ever. Of course I did. But you are now my servant again because I found you. So you are now my servant again. And he goes, no, actually, I'm my own person. I'm my own person. And now he remembers what Yen Sid said. He goes, oh, don't let your heart take over your mind. So you're not real. You're not a real person, actually. And then he grapples at her. His talisman is a ring. He grapples her hand and then pulls off the ring. And he gets the talisman and she disappears. He goes, I stepped to my fear of my mother. Congrats for me. I got my talisman. Then they're trying to find a way out of this hellscape of a city, and they can't find a door to get to Mal's. But then they find, I think it's like an underground tunnel or something like that. They find it somehow, and they get brought up to like this ledge apparently, and that's where the dragon's egg is, which is different from the dragon's eye, which what they were searching for last book, which was the scepter. This is an actual egg, like a physical egg that can hatch. She finds it and she's like, no, guys, don't worry about me. I'll go get it myself. Like, you go wait out there. Because she's, for some reason, very independent, too much so. So she gets her dragon egg, but then she falls off the fucking ledge because she didn't remember what Yensid said. She needed help. So then she cries for help and they create a human chain to get her off the ledge. I don't know how much that would work in execution, but it's okay. Also, throughout this whole book, Evie is wearing heels. That's an important detail because why the fuck would she be doing that in the catacombs? I get she wore them there, but why would she keep wearing them? And then they have to go back through these. They have to continue going through these tunnels because they don't know the way out. It's like a maze down here. The doors don't lead backwards, and so they arrive to this mine almost. And conveniently, Ben's evidence leads to this mine where all these scales were found, and he goes, "The monster is there then." And so conveniently, they meet up. They're like, "Oh my god, what are you doing here? That's crazy," because you knew they were on the Isle, but why were they in these random tunnels? Why were they in some random mine shaft? And they get Merlin is also with him because they're doing a little investigation together, and they get confronted with the monster of the book, and that is Madame Mim from the Sorcerer's Stone, a deep cut. And Mad Maddie turns out to be the granddaughter of Madame Mim, which they knew that. They just didn't know Madame Mim was like off destroying shit and everything. Um, so they figure that out. She's like, I want to go kill you all. I want to kill you guys. And she's eating sheep in Oridon. That's what she's doing for fun. She goes, the sheep are so yummy. Like that was the best time of my life. The sheep are so yummy. That's, as a vegetarian, that hurts me. Because why were you eating full sheep? That's just rude. And very anticlimactic fight happens. They have the King Arthur like sword or whatever. Ben has that, but he doesn't really fucking do anything because Merlin has his wand now. They finally gave Merlin magic, which is so fun. And they defeat Madame Mim, aka they say, go back to the Isle. You literally fucking suck as a villain. Because she does. She did nothing. So real of them. But so she goes back. She's like, okay, fine. Like the sheep are really yummy though. That's my ending remark. The sheep are really yummy. And she goes back, and then Merlin casts a little spell, and he goes, everyone should go back to where they belong. And so they just are transferred back to their rooms because they don't have to walk all the way there, which is nice. And they all have their talismans still. They just have them in Ordon, and they need to destroy them. So they are creating a little plan to destroy them. And Mal and Ben go back to like doing little coupley things, but just with the impending doom of they have to figure out how to destroy their talismans, which won't be resolved until next book. I don't know why they waited so long when they could have just gone to their Fairy Godmother right now and done it. But I don't think they wanted to admit they were on the Isle for the weekend and all that. So that's fair, actually. Madame M goes back to the Isle of the Lost like nothing happened. And then when they get back to Ordon, Evie searches on a magic mirror and says, where are our parents? Because where were they? They were just lost in the tunnels, probably. And they are all back at their houses, aka the spell from Merlin transported them all back. And it all worked. So that is the whole second book. I like this. I think it's okay. It's on match of the first book, in my opinion, because it's basically the same plot structure, but it has a little bit more fun and whimsy because it has more characters. And I think the events of it could be canon in some respects. So I think it could be canon. And I do apologize for the ghastly yellow that this board is. I just thought it was funny that the yellow was so fucking ugly that I had to use it. And these ones are the only one that look like palatable. And yeah. And also he's from Fantasia, deep cut of a teacher, I guess. Why is he a chemistry teacher? I don't know. Also, I don't know anything about Fantasia. He's just the sorcerer that like Magic Mickey. He's the sorcerer. Mickey's the apprentice of. I don't know. He has the hat. That's all I know. That's all I know. He has the hat, and so he's a sorcerer and not a chemistry teacher. So explain that to me. Why'd they just make him a chemistry teacher? I don't know. But moral of the story is that this book was fun. Okay, it has whimsy. It has fun. I'm back again, but in a best attempt at a J cosplay. And if you're like, oh, those colors do not match at all, take it up with this outfit because that's exactly what he's wearing. I'm sorry, except for the yellow, but the yellow is represented here. So this is what we have, okay? This is the clothes that were in my closet, and also on short notice. I promise the Carlos outfit is a tad better. A tad. This one's not much better than the Mal one, but at least it has the same colors going on. The Mal one was, I just had one purple short, and this is okay. I feel like this is an okay cosplay for what it is. Also, it's Jay. Like his outfits weren't that stand out. Honestly, the Evie one should have been better, judging that she was like the fashion one. But I digress. It's okay. We're back for the third book of this installment, and that is still a prequel to the second book. But now we have new characters, and it's not about Wicked World anymore. We can literally forget about Wicked World because I don't think any of the characters that were mentioned last time are even in this book. Pretty positive about that, actually. But we have some new characters up for today. First off, we have Uma, the daughter of Ursula. She is a main player in this book. That's why she's bigger than the rest of them, because honestly, she's the main character. The core four, debatable. Ben shouldn't be as big as he is. He has one conflict this book, and that's with Lonnie. And Jane is now on the board, and her and Carlos have flirty vibes going on still. They're still in the Willow Won't They stage, because that is resolved in the second movie itself. So they're hanging out together, blah, blah, blah. And along with Uma, we have Harry Hook, son of Captain Hook, and then Gil, son of Gaston. And then back up on the board, we have their teacher, and said he's still here. He's still kicking. And up here, we have a beautiful rendition of a mermaid. There's no face claim. She's just in the book. So here we have my drawing of a mermaid. And if you don't like it, that's your problem, because I think it's a beautiful drawing and represents what is supposed to be had. We start off the third book a few days after the second one, so not much of a time skip. They still have their wonderful talismans that they got last book. They still have those. They have not been destroyed. It's been a few days. I don't know why they are stalling with this. It seems like a thing that they should destroy, but one of the stories that they're stalling it, and they are at a water show in Ariel Land. I don't know what it's called, but there's a little water show going on. And then this major storm happens, and that's weird because those never happen in Oridon. So they're a little bit confused. When the storm arises, they're like, oh, maybe our talismans are doing it because it's so much magic in the same place. And most of them are carrying their talismans because they're scared that they're going to like fall into the wrong hands, something like that. And so they decide, yeah, we're going to destroy them today. So they go find Fairy Godmother. Fairy Godmother does a rendition of Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo to destroy their talismans because that's all she can fucking do. But she destroys them. They're all gone, blah, blah, blah. But little do they know, the force of them destroying 4 magical talismans opened up the barrier just for a split second. None of the people on the Isle knew, but with that mysterious storm, it wasn't just there was a reason behind it. This mermaid over here, who is the daughter of one of Ariel's sisters, so King Triton's granddaughter, stole his trident to go play with it, go have fun, and accidentally created a storm and then dropped the trident. She lost it in the ocean and does not tell anyone right at this moment. She keeps this to herself because she's like, I don't want to get in trouble. So no one knows this. Only she knows this. And that's what created the storm. But with it in the ocean and them opening up the magical barrier by destroying their talismans, the trident slips through the barrier and is now in the Isle. Issues, problems, because now it's stuck there. It's the barrier closed back up, so it's just stuck at the Isle. But the core 4 are oblivious, and they're just going to school. And Mal is under some stress because she is now the king's girlfriend, and so she is expected to do princessy things because she's the king's girlfriend, which they shouldn't expect that out of her. I think never change for a man. Never change for a man for real, because she does a full 180 this book, and it pisses me off. Pisses me off hardcore because she was fine before. She is under a lot of stress because of it, and she can't make it to like to class on time and all that. So she's using magic to cope, and I think that's perfectly okay because the magic rule is stupid anyway. So I feel like she should be able to use it. But she's using magic to cope. Evie's not happy about it because Evie has already planned or has done the act of turning in her magic mirror to the museum, so she cannot use it for magic. Boring. Hashtag boring because bring magic back to Ordon. It's fun. It's special. Mal steals her spell book and she's using spells to make it through the day, and that's so fair. And this is where we plant the seeds of the whole plot of the second movie, which shows Mal dealing with the pressure of being a princess and acting princessy things. So that's where we plant the seeds for this. But it doesn't really come to fruition here, judging that it's her character development pre the movie. That's what they're doing. They're just going to class. And Carlos is just going to school. I don't think he has. Not a lot of people have key distinctive things except for the new characters in this book. So they're just living life as they normally would until Arabella, that's her name, the wonderful mermaid who lost a trident. That seems like a big deal, but whatever. She tells Ben and the core four about it because she's scared she's going to get in trouble if she tells her grandfather, which she would have. And so Ben's like, "Ooh, that's a problem because I'm king of this. I like need to tell someone about that because that's a problem." But he pawns off the issue on the four of them because he has to go to Agrabah with Lonnie, and on the Agrabah is right next to the Great Wall of China geographically. So on the other side of the wall is a town called North Way, I think. I might correct that in post because I don't know. The conflict is going on between them because they share the Great Wall of China in between. And Agrabah, their magic carpets are making sonic booms, apparently. So Northern Way is not happy about this at all. In comparison, Northern Way's olive trees are going into Agrabah's like side of the wall. So they're having issues. So they go to figure it out because that's Ben's B plot, of course. It's political intrigue. When is it not? So they have to venture off to go find the trident. But first, we have to hop over to the Isle of the Lost, where our new character Uma hears from a goblin that a trident was spotted in the water. And she goes, "Ooh, I need that because I want to get off this island. I don't want to be here anymore." She runs her mother's fish and chip shop. She's a like waitress and literally runs the shop basically herself. Girl boss, I love Uma, okay? Not only because Shannon McClain is the actress for her, I just love her. She is so fun. And I think a lot of the things she did was deserved. Yes, I think the whole second movie, I think it was deserved because the lore behind Uma and Mao, how they're connected, is they used to be like the best of friends, making mischief together on the Isle until they were going to play a prank on Corella. And it ended up going badly, aka Mal fell in the water, and she still cannot swim, by the way. It's been what? 2 books and she has not learned to swim. I don't know why she doesn't do that because it's been used against her. She literally almost died because she drowned. But whatever. She has not learned to swim. She still couldn't as a child as well. So she got thrown in the water and she was like thrashing around, whatever. I think she was in shallow-ish water, so she would have survived. But basically, Uma laughed at her instead of helping her. And so Mal was super mad because she's like, I don't get disrespected on this island. So she then creates a prank for Uma where she dumps a bunch of shrimp on her head, and the smell never came out of her hair because they don't have like cleaning products there. They probably don't have good shampoo. So the smell never came out of her hair. That's dramatic. I'm sorry. Uma is in the right in this situation because that's dramatic. And after this, Mal calls her Shrimpy and convinces everyone else to call her Shrimpy. And then they're rivals after that, which makes sense. I'm sorry. That's really fucked up to do. That's messed up because I would be so pissed if I was Uma. Along with this trident drama, Uma decides that she needs a boat because she does not have one. And so, conveniently, Captain Hook is having a contest, and it's a boat race. And if you win the boat race, then you get Jolly Roger, aka his boat. And hypothetically, Jolly Roger would go to Harry because it is his son. Personally, I think that should be Harry's boat through and through. But the boat race continues. So Uma makes a bet with Harry that if she wins, then Harry has to be her first mate with the Jolly Roger. And the same bet goes the same way, that he wins, she gets to be the first mate. Obviously, Uma wins because she's the bigger one on this board. So Harry ends up being her first mate on the Jolly Roger, which is fun. And it's a very, very saleable boat at this time, I'd like to mention. It's in pretty good condition. So they score a boat. They're like, awesome. And so she lets him in on the trident business. She's like, we're going to go get the trident. But first, to attract King Triton's trident, obviously Ursula in direct relation to that, she's like, I need my mother's necklace to attract it and to like, it's basically a compass to the trident. And so she is like, oh, we got to go find my necklace. And this is where Yensid comes in. He apparently hid Ursula's necklace and smashed it up into like a million pieces. But so he hid it somewhere. So they scout out young Sid's apprentice, who was also dragged to the Isle when he became a teacher there, and she's kind of terrified of like everything because she is an Ordon kid, I do believe, but she's been there for a few years, so it's fine. They commission full Isle flirt of Gil because he's hot, so every girl likes him basically. He asks out the apprentice on a date at the fish and chip shop, and they basically grill her to find out where the necklace would be, and she's like, I'm not telling you. I'm actually not telling you at all unless you tell me where Jensen's hat is, which this is the hat he's wearing. It's a like the sorcerer's cap. So it's kind of important because it doesn't have magic because he's in the Isle, but it's still like important in standing. So it basically got bought from a hat store, and luckily enough, Gil bought it because he just likes hats. He just likes to go buy things. So they have it, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna burn this hat if you don't tell us where the necklace is." And then she tells. It's on a Isle of the Doomed, I do believe. It's just another off island of the Isle of the Lost, and so they have to go travel there by boat. They go by there by boat. They go through some troubles. They fall into a cave, I do believe, and they think it's full of dead people, but it's actually just a trap. That it's not full of dead people. They're like animatronics, but they're not animatronics. They're just like things on strings. They're puppets. That's the word I was looking for. So they eventually find a chest full of all of the pieces of the necklace, and they have to piece it all together. But it all sticks together with the little bit of magic it has left. And so Umi gets to wear the necklace now, which is fun. They follow this to another part of the island where they bring out a lifeboat, so it's a smaller way of getting to the trident because it's like deep down in the ocean. And they it's a major storm going on, so it's a lot of stress. But at the same time, we jump over back to Ordon a few hours later, where the Corps are trying to steal a speedboat from the like royal selection of boats because they need to get to the Isle to go get the trident. So they're like, "Oh, we need a speedboat." With the whole thing of like getting into breaking the barrier, they just kind of change the rules a little bit here. AKA, Mal has a spell to open the barrier, just like a tiny bit. That did not exist in earlier books. I feel like that would have been helpful, but whatever. It's not important because they just mention it like it's nothing. But they were trying to steal this people. They get caught by Fairy Godmother because they're dumbasses and couldn't hide in time. So Fairy Godmother is threatening to send them back to the Isle because she's like, you are stealing royal property, which I get is a problem at the same time. These four are always caught up in something. She should know that. Like, they're always caught up in something. But on their way into Fairy Godmother's office, because they're scared shitless, like we don't want to go back to the Isle. Carlos sees Jane, and he's like, please do something to help us, like get us out of this. And she's like, okay, because she likes Carlos. She doesn't want him to get in trouble. So she finds Merlin somehow. I don't know why he's there, but to magic Ben back from Agrabah, because he's already figured out the wall dispute. He just literally breaks a hole in the Great Wall of China so then they can travel back and forth. What an idea. But he breaks a wall in the Great Wall of China. That's crazy. That's crazy. But moral of the story, his business is done. He's going to go back to Ordon, but it's going to take a few days. So Jane tells Merlin to magic him back. As in, Ben can hear in his ear saying that, like, oh, you need to be in Ordon. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? And then he gets magically transported into Ordon prep. That's crazy. Also, how did Merlin get magic? Because he had his wand last book, but he was gifted that, like, by royal authority. I don't know how he got his magic, but that is a story for another time. Maybe he has hand magic. We're talking like Wizards of Waverly Place level of lore. I don't know. That's not my problem. Ben gets magic back. He goes into the office and says, what is going on? And then Fairy Godmother says, I caught them trying to steal a speedo. And he goes, oh, no, that was a special assignment by me. I needed them to do that. And she goes, oh, sorry about that. I was not told that. I should be told that. Which is true. But, of course, it was a lie. He never told them to do that. But he should have known by the fact that there was a trident missing. Actually, he might have not known that. She might have just told the Core Four about the missing trident. He might have already been in Agrabah. I don't remember. These books are fuzzy for me. These are the Descendants wiki. That's all I'm going off of here. Because the third and fourth book, boring as shit. I'll just say that. The first two, I vibe with. Second one's I don't know. They're bad. They're not very good. Anyway, they successfully get a speedboat because of Ben having royal authority, aka Ben takes them out as well as a speedboat. But Storm is going on both sides, obviously. So it is raining so bad, and the waves are so bad, and they're in a tiny little speedboat. I don't know why they chose that one out of all things. I think it's the fastest. But also, if we had magic, let's just teleport to the barrier. That's all I'm gonna say. If we're gonna use magic, we might as well use it the whole way through. So they get to the edge of the barrier where the trident is conveniently like very close to the barrier. And Mal uses her spell to open the barrier up a little bit and uses her magic to attract the trident because Uma is also trying to attract the trident with her necklace. And the conflicting powers make Uma win. She wins the thing because she's not dealing with a magical barrier in between. So Mal uses her turn back time spell, which is like to the beginning of the hour, I do believe. So I think it was like 5 minutes previous. She just went back to where uh, Uma was still like trying to get the trident. So she wins in it all, aka the trident goes on the Ordon side of the barrier, and all Uma ends up getting is Mal's glove. So she knows it's Mal. She knows Mal's behind this because it's a purple glove, purple fingerless glove. Who else wore those? Like it's literally only Mal. So she knows that it is indeed Mal who did this to her, who took the trident from her. So she's pissed, and because of the storm, the Jolly Roger got fucked completely. Like it's unsaleable. They had to like push it back to the dock. They can never sail it again, which sucks. That's why it's just docked in Descendants too. Fun little lore tidbit. But so all three of the pirate crew, they're very mad, but they stay as a crew after this. They're best buddies. Also, I do believe Harry and Gale are in love, or at least explore each other's bodies. Because tell me why when Gale fell in the water off of the lifeboat, Harry was like immediate jump in to get him. Very like scared about him. And they just met, I'd like to mention. They just met a few weeks previous, so why was he so scared? I think they're in love. Also, Harry Hook is the most raging pansexual ever, so I wouldn't be surprised. He's literally in love with anyone he sees, and it is hinted, of course, in the later movies that he's in love with Uma. I don't think he was in love with Uma like the whole time. I don't think that. I think he's just in love with everyone a little bit. And this book ends, of course, with Mal saying, "I want to be more like a princess," and she goes to Evie for this. And this pisses me off because never change for a man. Never change for a man for real. You do not deserve this, Mal. You deserve to be yourself because Ben likes her that way, but she's scared of like the image to other people, which like fuck them. I don't care. Also, this board looks too damn good for how short this book is because not a lot happens. I paraphrased a lot because it's a lot of filler, okay? Not a lot happens. And it just looks so damn good. I'm so proud of this one, actually. And the fourth one is okay. The fourth book itself sucks ass. It's literally the worst one, but the board is okay. It's fine. That's it for these photos as well because they change eras for the next book, aka it's post Descendants 2 and prequel to the third movie. So it focuses on the characters included in the third movie, which is fun. Also, a wonderful photo of Uma gets used for the next one, aka my favorite look from Uma ever. She looks so goddamn good. So that's it for the third book. It was okay. I think I rated this like a 3 stars compared to the other two, which were both 4. And I think the fourth one was a 1 or a 2. It's so goddamn work. Back again. It's actually the same day as book 3, but I just changed my outfit. And so it's been like 20 minutes. But I also had to finish this up because it actually wasn't all the way done. Because everything wasn't fitting the way that I wanted it to. And here we have way bigger pictures because there's way less people in this book at all. You can see Ben is a very small individual on this board. That's because he's barely fucking in it. He doesn't even have a B plot. And this is still the worst book, even though a B plot isn't here with Ben doing political drama. And I hate those plots, and yet this is still my least favorite book because it sucks ass. Also, Jamie on the board again because she's here. She's doing stuff. Because this book opens up with their senior year, but only for 3 of them because Carlos is a year younger and so is Jane. They're in the same grade. So they're all graduating, including Ben, even though he's the king. He's just now graduating. That's crazy. The fact that he's graduating as a king, that's wild. But they are at school. They're doing these senior activities of like, oh, it's like a senior scavenger hunt. And basically, these are all being put together by Carlos and Jane. They're soloing this whole senior thing. Along with senior year becomes college troubles. So they're all freaking the fuck out. Jay, because he doesn't know what he wants to do. He knows he wants to do sports, and right now the sports season is Roar, which stands for like, I'll put it up on the screen, but that's like military. I'm sorry, that's military. Um, because what the fuck are you commissioning military for the Ordon police force? Like that sounds like military. That's what they're doing. Anyway, it is fencing with a little bit of parkour. And fun fact, this um team of Roar is coached by the brother of Lonnie, who is called Lil Shang. He's a canonical hip hop rapper. I'm not lying. That they said that in the book, or correct me if I'm wrong, because they did say that. To my knowledge, they said that, and I had to double check when I first read it, heard it in the audiobook. I was in disbelief, so I went and checked the ebook, and go figure, it was right there, rapper. And I said, that's crazy. That's wild. Because why would they add that in there? So that's Jay's troubles. He's trying to figure out scholarships because they don't have money. I don't know if you have to pay for college. I think you do. So they don't have money. So that's a little bit of an issue. But whatever. Evie is a businesswoman. She's slaying. She's making her dresses. She has her business, but she doesn't have a place to live. After they leave Ordon, because they've been living in dorms, they don't have a place to live. They live during the summer because they don't have homes. So she needs a place for her business, and she also needs a place to eat and sleep and all that. And Doug is still her business partner. Boo Doug. I didn't put him on the board, even though he's here the same amount as Jane and Ben, probably combined. I just don't like him. I'm sorry. I didn't want him on the board. Um, this is also in the era where he grows out his hair, if you are familiar with the third movie. I don't know why she stayed with him. That's my question, because she said in the book, yeah, he's growing out his hair. She should have actually left him, because what the fuck was that? That was a bad ponytail. No hate to the actor. I just think it was a choice that I don't agree with, but yeah. But I just don't like his character. So Doug is not on the board on purpose. And Jay is, he does not have a long-standing relationship, so he didn't get anyone on board. I think for the scavenger hunt, it was duos. Obviously, Mal went with Ben. Carlos was planning the whole thing with Jane. He went with Lonnie, I do believe, and he went with Doug. Whatever. And basically, the scavenger hunt was they had to go around all of Ordon and find these specific items that were very specific and very weird. I think they had to break into people's houses to get them, but the way they explained it was very weird as well. So, more of the story, they went on a scavenger hunt, and Chad won, I do believe. Chad is here, um, with not dating Audrey because he fumbled that. I'm pretty sure he was doing it solo, I do believe, and he won. So shout out to him, I guess. Mal is preparing to be queen. Actually, that hasn't happened yet. He hasn't proposed yet. So she's just being her. I, what do they commission her in Descendants to? It's like the royal, like place on the court. So she's a lady of the court now. So she has to do her political standings because she's also the girlfriend of the king. So they commissioned her to go to all the lands and like do her royal decrees and everything, even though she's not queen. She's literally not queen. But moral of the story is that on this list of things is not the Isle, and she goes, I was from the Isle. I feel like I should go there. That's my home originally, so I should go give a royal decree there. And they go, oh, I guess. I guess. Um, if you want to. It's like, we don't want you getting in trouble. And also, Mal thinks of the idea. She's like, oh, we should also advocate for the VK program while we're there, because they haven't really done anything since the four came over, and accidentally Freddy, which might or may not have been canon. We don't know. So VK program kind of been stagnant. So they're like, we got to go drum up some um, applications for that, because we want people to come to Ordon. Real convenient that they pick this time when they're seniors, so they won't have to be at school the next year to like watch over the VKs. Real convenient. That's what I say. They pawn it all off on Carlos, which is so rude. And while they're having their la-di-di time over in Ordon, worrying about adult problems and financial struggles, um, over in the Isle, aka around the Isle, like underground, we have Uma in the water as a sea serpent, because that's how she leaves in the second movie. And Uma is around the island looking for a way to contact Harry and Gil, because she wants to like help get them out. Somehow, I don't know what her plan is for that one, but she hears rock music from a cave underneath the water, and she goes, "That's weird," because where the fuck would that be coming from? So she finds a cave with some cracks, and she, with her magic, can like shrink down. So she shrinks down and slips through the cracks of like this cave and finds it's Hades' lair. And his personality, he loves rock music, and he's just a little loner because he's mad that he is a god in the Isle of the Lost, which I agree with this statement. I agree with his reasoning, because why the fuck is the god of the underworld in the Isle of the Lost just in a cave? Like, he should be handling the dead people? Hypothetically, that's lore that I don't want to cover. Anyway, they craft a little plan to get off the Isle by Uma says she wants to hypnotize Mal to get the return device. So, because they know that the Core 4 are on the way over to the Isle because Mal's doing her royal decree. So they're planning a trip over there to do some publicity for VK Day. And so she's like, I'm gonna go hypnotize her, but I need some help with your magic because his ember is like barely alive. Like he has his little magic ember, which didn't exist in Hercules, but we're not gonna talk about that. That's not important. So he has this little ember that he uses. It has a little bit of magic because he's so deep underground that the barrier is like very touchy. Hence why she can get in and out of the cave, and there's still magic. Because of these cracks in the cave, there's still magic. And that's leaking into the Isle a little bit. Magic can work on the Isle just a little bit because of these cracks in the cave. But the Core 4 are unknown to this, and they go to the Isle to go do publicity, blah, blah, blah. Hence why Ben isn't here, because he literally doesn't have an issue to be struggling with. The main characters are just running around doing shit. Okay, they go to their high school, and they are trying to get the kids to like sign up and stuff. And they're talking to Dr. Facilier, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't think they're going to want to do that." And when they do an assembly for like what VK Day is and like all that and like what Oridon can be, all the kids are like, "Yeah, I don't fucking care. I could honestly care less," which is fair. Honestly, if you were raised your whole life to just like not care, then yeah, I could see them not wanting to do it. So they're kind of at a stalemate, but they go to their old hideout, which is included in Descendants 2 as a random throwaway that I feel like they should explain. Like, when did they get that building? When did they paint it all? When did they get beds in there? Hello? Anyway, they sleep there, with one of them keeping watch just in case someone tries to like kill them, which is fair. Fair judgment on the Isle. They stay there a few days. It's just like them like walking around and shit. They don't see anything out of the ordinary necessarily, but they do meet Dr. Fitzgerald's other daughter, if we include Freddie in the canon, Celia, and she's just kind of like Dr. Facilier Jr. Like, literally, she's just the same personality copy paste because Descendants don't want to do any characterization today. But they go back to Dr. Facilier because they're like, what can we do to help this VK Day thing go better? And he goes, as long as you give a chance for my daughter to get one of the applications and go to Oridon, then it's completely fine. And I go, got it. Can do. And then that night, when they're just sleeping at the hideout before they like have to talk to the whole student body and all that, they Jay's keeping watch, but he falls asleep because he's just looking out a window and gets bored and falls asleep. Mal has a dream that is she's hearing her father's voice in her head. This is where we shift from she thought she had a human father in the first book. That is completely thrown out the window because I think she knows who her father is in this book. So that's confusing, but we don't talk about it. So she hears her father's voice and she goes, that's weird, that's suspicious, but it's just a dream, it's fine. Then she keeps on hearing the voice when she wakes up and she goes, oh, that's not okay. So she's following it, but also she's partly hypnotized. She's partly hypnotized because this is actually Uma working her magic, but she just doesn't know it. And this little exchange that's about to go on was a teaser for Descendants 3 that was called Under the Sea. It was a Descendants like special, a Descendants story. And in the special, Dove Cameron and Jonathan McClane sing a duet of Stronger by Kelly Clarkson. It was a choice, and I respect it. I respect it hardcore. That does not happen in the book. If it did, I would have liked this book better, 100%. But the special happens without any of the fun stuff, which is Stronger by Kelly Clarkson. So Mal follows the voice through the streets of the Isle, and she comes up to a possessed Dizzy, who was in the second movie. So she's possessed, and she's saying like, "Oh, we were supposed to meet up like at the hair place because Dizzy does hair." And I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll do." And fun fact, she actually does go to the hair place the next day. but that's for later. She goes, Dizzy, you're acting kind of weird because like why are you speaking like that? And because she kind of looks crazy, like her eyes look a little crazy, and she's like, oh whatever, like I'll just walk on to where this voice is leading me. And she encounters Harry and Gil, both also hypnotized, and then they all come together as like the three of them, and Mal sees Uma's necklace on all three of them, like on their chests, and she goes, "What the fuck is going on? Why are you all possessed by Uma?" And then she's like, "Okay, well, I need to get out of the situation," and so she runs to the end of the dock. She's at the water now and jumps in, even though she can't fucking swim. So problems. But we jump back over to the three of them, realize that Mal is gone, and so oh, that's an issue. They go out looking for her. They ask Pain and Panic, aka Hades' little henchman, and they ask her where she went, and they go, "Oh yeah, she went towards the dock." And they're like, "Ooh, that doesn't sound good. Where is she going?" And so they get there right as she jumps in the water. So they're like, "That's bad because we can't go get her now. She's in the water, and a whole like sea of fish covers them up because Uma is hiding her basically in the water." And so they run back to Evie's house to go find the magic mirror that happens to have magic in it because of the cracks of the um, cave and stuff. So they go back through, and apparently, when the magic mirror is active, you can reach through and like grab people from it. So while Mal is underwater, she can breathe because it was magic, and she is trying to fight Uma underwater, and they're like talking and shit, and then basically right as Uma's about to trick Mal into like opening this door and stealing the return from her. Also, why is she carrying this on her person? That's not fucking smart. Trade it around at least or something like that. Why are you carrying it in your pocket? Um, so right as she's about to do that, Evie reaches through the magic mirror and pulls her, um, like away from that door or something. And somehow the magic is broken because of this. So Mal gets sent back up to the dock and is confused as fuck because through this magic, they lost their memory. They lost their memory of what even fucking happened. So all four of them now have no idea what happened. Like they're like, why are we in this different house? And why am I on this dock? I was not here before. And Uma is like she's like pushed back and definitely outside of the barrier. Like, and the barrier is up again. There's like no magical interference. Like she's on the other side of it and she can't get passed back through that cave. Because little do they know that Celia was just walking through Hades' cave because she's like his errand runner, and she saw that there was battle slipping through the cracks, and so she used her like shadow powers to seal them all up, which is brave. She was like considerate because this whole time she has her little tarot cards. She was predicting that catastrophe was going to go on. She was like, tragedy is like coming for the other lost, and she was telling all four of them this, but they were like, she's just a little girl with tarot cards. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She was literally speaking facts, and so she seals up these cracks. She's like, I think this was the trouble that was going on, and she was right. So Uma's now locked out for sure. Hades is just fucking pissed because he literally all this was for nothing. And then the core four now don't know what happened. And so the next day, Mal goes to the hairdresser and she changes this wonderful haircut to a bob. She gets a bob and somehow loses the bangs. That hair salon is generally magic because how did she get bangs? How did she just leave them? Maybe she had bangs and she grew them out between this book and the third movie, but she gets a bob, so slay for her, and she gets a darker, and it looks great. And that's what's going on with them, and they go back to Oregon like nothing fucking happened, and they make a deal with the school that it'll be a big publicity thing if VK Day happens, so they will get like a whole like party if they sign their application, they get accepted. And obviously Dizzy already got accepted. She was the only person for applications because they sent it to her. That's embarrassing. And Celia obviously goes in the third movie, and the Smee twins go, and that's it, I do believe. Yes, let's do it. And so they go back to Ordon like nothing happened, and Jay gets into college, but I'm pretty sure in the third movie he said he was taking a gap year. Don't quote me on that. I actually don't know. So he gets into college, he's happy about it. He gets into like Agrabah University. But the wiki said something different, so also don't quote me on that. Evie gets a building for her wonderful business with Doug. Ew. And Carlos is just going into senior year doing Carlos things with his girlfriend, which is fun. Mal obviously is just living as the king's girlfriend, doing her things and having fun. And I have a major plot hole with this because in the book they say, "Oh yeah, we can get applications from the Anti-Heroes Club." That means the second book is canon. That means that Wicked World is canon. And also in this book, they talk about how CJ Hook was on Oridon, which only happens in Wicked World. So that means the events of Wicked World are also canon, which means Zevon is canon in the Descendants universe, which means Bradley Stephen Perry's voice is canon in the Descendants universe. And that's pretty cool. But a whole lot of issues with this book because it kind of makes the second book canon, which makes Wicked World canon, and either that or this book is also happening in a separate timeline that is not canon. So too many issues, too many plot holes. That's what I think. And also, I love this bob. I do love this haircut, so I'm glad that she got it. I'm sorry that these pictures are so dark. The photo shoots for the third movie just were not that ideal. And obviously they'll be like up on screen, but like from this point of view, they're really dark. Um, and Uma, her look is so goddamn good in the third book, which means I had to put the photo up here, even though these are technically from the second one. Because they looked like that in between the second and the third, so it makes sense. But Mal did get her bob, so I had to update the photo, of course. And the fifth book, you can literally throw all these characters out of your brain because they don't matter. So that'll be fun. It'll be definitely be interesting. We are back for the final installment of the series, of course, and that is Beyond the Isle of the Lost, which is unrelated to all the other books, as you might see by the board here, which has none of the characters from the past four. And that is because it's a prequel to Rise of Red, the new Descendants movie. New-ish, anyway, by the time this will probably come out, but whatever. um, yeah, so this has nothing to do with Rise of Red, for that matter. It's not even like an origin story like the first Descendants book really was. Also, this is a very poor attempt at a red cosplay. That's because I own no bright red. No one can really match this girl's freak with the color red, and I've accepted that, and it's okay. So this is what we have. It's the best I can do, and also this jacket's probably gonna make noise the entire time, so that's gonna be fun. But we're gonna try and not have that happen. And if you are aware, okay, the movie just came out, but don't judge it off the movie, judge it more off the books, which I might do a video about as well. And that is the Uglies books, the Uglies series. This book gives major first book vibes for the Uglies. I can't, like, I read this whole thing through an audiobook, and the whole time I was thinking, oh my god, this is such like Uglies. And also, for one of the faith claims, I did young Robert Downey Jr., and this is reminds me of David. I'm pretty sure his name is David. He just gives those vibes. This picture, especially, I did a great job picking the pictures from Google. Okay, and this thing about this book is that it has a lot of characters that aren't in the movie because it's just taking place in Wonderland, and so they don't have face claims, and so I will just be mentioning them by name, and you're gonna have to remember that because I don't have pictures of them. I literally face claimed two, just because I thought it off the physical descriptions. That's what I did. So for a character named Chester, we have Shawn Mendes, specifically young Shawn Mendes, because he's a white brown haired boy. That's really all I can do. And for a character named Ace, we have a young Robert Downey Jr. because it was a white boy with black hair. So that's what we ended up with. And I think my casting is great. And if you disagree, that's your problem. We start off this book at a quote unquote unparty in Wonderland, and that is because they don't have parties there because those are fun and they can't have fun because the queen says no. And Queen Rita Ora up here, of course, is Queen of Hearts, and then her daughter Red. Red is at this unparty. She's bored because they're all bored at unparties. That's the goal. And she is just like observing things, and also her mother tells her that she's going to have to start doing royal decrees because she's the princess. And Red doesn't want to do this because she kind of hates her mother and everything she stands for, and she just kind of hates like royal authority. She doesn't really vibe with being a princess at all, and that's so fair. That's so fair for her, honestly, because if I lived in Wonderland, I would be bored all the time. They literally do nothing fun because the Queen of Hearts just enjoys literally making people miserable, which is fun sometimes, but like not all the time. There's no other stuff to do. So they're at this unparty, and this random kid tries to steal some pastries, and you can't eat sweets. That's a rule. So he gets caught and dragged off by the authorities, which are card soldiers, which in the Alice in Wonderland movie, they look like this. And I think that's more based on what they look like in the book. They're basically like humanoid figures. Like in the movie, they look like that, but um, they just have human faces in the movie. And in the book, they're described as having like masks over their faces, so they're like faceless soldiers that do whatever the queen says because that's what um, they're brainwashed to do. But we'll figure that out later. See, my mic just died, and then I also had to take off my jacket because it got too hot in here. So we've deteriorated greatly from whatever the fit was before. It's even worse now, but I'm still wearing red, so that's what counts. And to, the kid got taken away from the party. Red has no idea where he went, and she's just like, oh, whatever. And at this party, we get a tidbit of Rise of Red, aka the queen sees a flamingo feather cupcake, and she goes, "Get those out of there. I don't want to see those ever." Which makes the prank even more fucking confusing because were they related to flamingo feather cupcakes? That's my question. Editing Natalie here. I realized that I never explained my point when saying that the cupcakes were part of the prank. Obviously, they were. They were literally based off that. But I'm saying, are the cupcakes directly like related to the prank itself? Because she was like extra mad about them, but it could just be like a reminder of what happened. Doesn't matter. She just didn't look at her notes. That was her problem. Like, I wrote them for a reason. Just went off the dome for the entire book. That was what happened with the third, fourth, and fifth. I just started yapping and never stopped. Which third and fourth were only like 20 minutes worth of film, and the fifth one was really long. That's because I remembered more stuff from it. But this video took so long to edit that I now have a different hair color. I now have blue in my hair instead of red. So that really says something because this video is taking me so goddamn long. It's not funny. If you haven't seen Rise of Red, sorry, but I don't want to explain the lore of it. I do if it's important. I will if it's important, but this book has literally nothing to do with it, so I probably won't. So if you don't get that reference, sorry, not sorry, because I just don't want to explain it. And after this one party, Red has to go to high school because that's sadly what has to happen. She goes to Royal High School, not to be confused with the other homeschool that they have on the other side of Wonderland, which is just like the non-royal kids, which I don't know what royalty they hold if they're not related to the Queen of Hearts. Don't ask me because I don't know, and they really don't explain it. It's basically just like if they were popular in Alice in Wonderland, they probably go to this school because one of the teachers who I forgot to put on this board, because he basically is there like nun. The way that I listened to this clip over and over again, because I thought I was saying that he was a nun, like of the religious kind. Maybe learn grammar, Natalie. Maybe that'll help. What was I even trying to say? Like, it's not even funny. Like, you can, I confuse myself to my core. Is Maddox Hatter, who is the son of the Mad Hatter, and he is the teacher. But in the movie, he's also like friends with Red, which I find a little bit confusing because like age gap, hello. But I digress. It's not my problem because he's like older. He's old enough to be a teacher. He is their chemistry. I sense a theme. The chemistry teacher is just an add-on that really makes no sense to the plot, but it's either physics or chemistry, somewhere along those lines. Red is going to high school, and she hates high school because everyone's afraid of her because they're afraid of her mother because her mother kills people for fun. So she doesn't really have any friends, but she meets this guy, Shawn Mendes, or what his real name is, was Chester, and he is a descendant of the Cheshire Cat. I don't want to know how human offspring came out of that. I don't want to know. All you know is he's a Cheshire and he has the power to like disappear and reappear and also maybe to teleport. Don't ask me. I don't know because they never explain it. But he can move around really quickly because he can disappear most likely. And he is also bored of the Wonderland life, aka they have unparties, they don't have fun ever. And so they decide to throw a party of their own. And this is scandalous for her because parties are illegal. They are against the law, and Red should not be throwing one, but she does anyway because she wants some adventure in her life. So they decide to throw the party, I think, like in a back, like in the forest behind the castle. And basically, around the castle is this big maze, and they throw it like through the maze, so people have to go through it to get there. And not a lot of people at the school trust it because they are very hesitant about parties because they can get arrested and killed for it. So, but they put put out some flyers at school, but they have to dodge their headmistress, the Duchess. And you might be seeing this photo and you're like, that is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. This is her in Alice in Wonderland, the book. She is not in the movie, but she exists in the universe. So I had to put this picture up here because it's the only one I found. And she's holding a crying baby and she looks really scary. So do with that what you will. And from what I read, her baby turns into a pig in Alice in Wonderland. So I don't know what that entails. This does not correlate to her character. I don't think she has a kid. I could be wrong, but I have no idea. So she's the head mistress of the school. So they have to dodge her when passing out these flyers because it's big no-no. If she figures out about the party, then it's basically not a thing anymore. And they do throw this party with the help of the homeschooled kid, Ace. He's homeschooled on the other side of the city, I do believe. I don't know what his family history is. I have no idea. Um, I don't know who his parents are. I don't think they explain it. And if they don't, that's because I don't remember. And a thing to note about Red and Ace is that they have a little bit more of like flirty vibes than compared to Red and Chester. They are very much just like besties and like cause mischief to the other besties, but they have a little bit of flirty vibes. And they throw this party, but they have no idea what a party is because they've never had one. And so all they have are like some flatbread pizzas and like they don't have music. They are in the middle of the woods. It's kind of giving like campfire because I think they have other food there too, but that's kind of it. They don't really have like games, so it's kind of a lame party. But a lot of people from school do go, and they're very scared about the fact that the princess is there because they're like, "Oh my god, this was a trap. Like we were going to get arrested." But she's like, "No, I planned it. I planned this party, guys." And they were like, "Oh, okay." But from someone, I don't know who, the they probably heard the party or something like that and saw a bunch of people gathering. Um, the card soldiers come and like all the people run because they don't want to get arrested, and everyone gets away. But then when Red gets back to the palace, the Queen of Hearts is there, and she's like, "Did you really think that was a party? Like that was really lame." And Red's like, "I have never had one. Like that's not my fault." So she knew Red through the party, and she's like, "I'm willing to look past this, but you have to do royal lessons every day after school now," which sucks so bad because she has to talk to two twins named Twee and Dora, I do believe. I will edit that and post if it's wrong. I didn't write down their names. But they are just very like they're on the council, the royal council. They're very like stuck up, princessy stuff like that. And Red doesn't really like manners nor like table manners, none of that. She doesn't like the royalness of everything. So she's not having these lessons. She doesn't really care for them. And the queen really wants her to do these lessons because she has to speak at the next tea party, which are the big like royal parties where they give royal decrees and everything. So she has to give a royal decree at the next tea party, and she's not happy about this either because she doesn't really want to be queen nor have the royal authority of princess. She only wants that to like not be like her mother because she doesn't like the way her mother rules. And she's cool, but not like I want to behead people and all that. And while these royal lessons are going on, the three of them are just hanging out like after school and stuff like that. And Red is sneaking away from the palace a lot to go hang out with them, and usually they do it at night so then she can sneak out her window and everything. And they little romance blossoming here, but nothing like concrete. They're not telling each other that they love each other or anything, but like little flirty vibes going on. Then they want to throw another party, but they want it to be a real party. So when they have to figure out where to go find how to throw a real party, so they figure out from Chester that his family, like his extended family or something like that, lives in a town over that's less controlled by the queen because she doesn't really care. If it's not like the main capital of Wonderland, then she doesn't really care. And so they have to find a way to drive there, and they also have to find an excuse for Red to not be at home. So Red says that she's going to go train with the Duchess. Queen of Hearts, completely fine with this. She's like, I don't fucking care. You're like, I never see you in the South anyway. I literally do not care. And so she's like sick, and then they somehow steal the Duchess's car because I think Ace's family has a like friend of a friend of a family or something like that has a car shop, and so they get the Duchess's car, pretend to be the Duchess, Red pretends to be the Duchess, and they drive over to the next town. It's a very convoluted plan that really amounts to them getting over, and that's all that matters. They get to the next town, and they meet Twee's sister, twin sister, and her name is Dee, or it's the other way around. They meet her and then Red's really scared because at first she thinks it's the princessy one and then it's not, and she's like, "Oh, like why are you and your sister so different? And then the nice one says like, oh yeah, like we just had differences on how we wanted our lives. So she moved over to the next town over to like live life and actually have fun. Well, the other one went to go be on the council. So bringing up families over here. But they find out that there's a party going on that night. And so they stay at a motel, something along those lines. But like they check into a motel and then they go to this party and they have music. They have like dancing, but it's very underground. It's like in like a basement or someplace. But then they find there's card soldiers coming over the hill, and they never card soldiers never come to this town. So Queen of Hearts knows something. She knows something is up, but she doesn't really do anything about it because she just wants Red to be like uh, ready to be princess. Like she does not really care that much about what Red does in her free time, and so they have to speed home, pretend to be the Duchess again, and all that because they crash the party, and everyone at the party is like, it's okay. But important detail about the town that they're in, they meet Harry and Jace, who are from the main Descendants movies, or not movies, books. They were from the main Descendants books, but they were in the Isle of the Lost. They were with Carlos on Isle of the Lost, and this takes place. When they are talking to Red, they say, "Oh yeah, we heard that the Ordon is now open to villain kids, so we want to get back there, but we're stuck in Wonderland because of the closed rabbit hole." But the basically the lore of Wonderland is that it was shut off from Ordon because they didn't want to join, and they closed the rabbit hole then. They closed the rabbit hole when Ordon was hypothetically formed. So how would they get into Wonderland if they were in the Isle? If they went, I guess there could have been an opening from the Isle to Wonderland and then it closed. I don't know. That's lore consistency to the max. I think she just wanted to add a little sprinkle of a character that she could do, which was Harry and Jace, the Cockney accents from that were just Carlos's friends. I guess that's a choice, but they're there and they're just in Wonderland. So I don't understand that, and I don't want to think about it because that's so many lore holes that I don't want to think about. But they get out of this town, they go back to their homes, blah blah blah, and um, Red goes back to the palace. Queen of Hearts doesn't really care that she's there. It doesn't really comment on her going to another town, blah blah blah. But she suspects it because Red gets home and she's like, "Oh, did you not want to ask me about how my training was with the Duchess?" And she's like, "I do not care. I do not care at all." Actually, moral of the story is that their trip to the other town was very. They learned what a party was. They learned what to do with one, and they also got gifted a cassette tape that had like Ordon music on it, and you'll hear later what the Ordon music is, which is crazy to the semblance of the lore of the movies as well. And then in the next days that follow, we find out that Red finds out that the Queen of Hearts is going away for like a few days to go, I think, visit other parts of Wonderland or like do some royal decrees, Queen stuff. She's doing Queen stuff. And so Red is like, oh, perfect opportunity. Let's throw a big blow up party in the castle, which brave, big fuck you to authority. Love that for her. They set up in the big like ballroom, and to the a lot of people, even the royal decree, like royal council people, are in on this party. They're like, oh, this might be fun because they've been in boring Wonderland for way too long. And at this party, they play the cassette tape of "Be Our Guest" by like sung by Ben and I assume the Ordon students, which is in the first movie. Which crazy song to shout out, but I guess that makes the most sense of which would be recorded as like an actual song to be released in Ordon. But I just love the lore implications that Ben is like an artist on Spotify, you know? Like it's like Ben Florian. I love that. I love the lore behind that. Like love. But so they play the music. They're like slow dancing. Don't ask me how they're slow doing dancing to Be Our Guest. I think they are, but it's Red and Ace. They're slow dancing. And then they kiss. They do indeed kiss, which is crazy. Did not think that was gonna happen, but they do kiss. And then that's right when they get caught. Okay, the Queen of Hearts comes in there and she goes, "What is going on in my castle? This better not be a party." And it was a party. So the three of them escape through some secret tunnels at the under the castle because Red knows about them because she escapes often. So they escape through those. And this is where it's like literally the Book of Uglies to a T. AKA they're traversing through like sand dunes and like burnt ground and everything to get to, I think it's like this pool thing. It's very throw in lore detail later. They're trying to get to this like pool of water that apparently transports you to wherever you want to go, and it's like up on the top of this hill. But they also take a lot of rests because it's a lot of walking and they don't really have food. nor water. So they're kind of struggling, and the floaty vibes that we hear between them aren't really like holding as I feel like they should be, because they just kissed. I feel like they should be more flirty and in love, but no, they're not. So this is just really like a friendship situation between everyone here, which interesting choice. But when Red is sleeping one night, they make a plan that if they get caught, they're gonna let her go and just get arrested themselves if they do. And I don't know why they didn't communicate this with her. I know she would have said no, because she's very like, um, we're all going together if we're going. But they didn't. Uh, they didn't tell her at all. So lo and behold, they do get caught. The car soldiers find them, and these two get caught, but she doesn't. But she, like the dumbass she is, chases back after them to the castle. So she sneaks in, and this is when we find out that the boy who stole the sweet in the very beginning of the book, he was commissioned as a card soldier, and basically the coverings on their heads, they you can unlock them. I don't know how you get the key, but she had the key. She unlocked this one, and it was the kid who stole the sweets. He had no idea that he was even a card soldier, that he was like even alive. Like he woke up and was like, what happened? Like, where have I been? Like, what happened? Which is so freaky. Honestly, probably the worst thing she did. She just has mindless soldiers that have no idea like that they're even alive. That's crazy. So she sets this man free basically and steals his helmet, because she has to get into the palace somehow. So she just takes his uniform, and it works decently. She gets down to the dungeons, and she finds these two in the dungeon. They're like, "What the fuck are you doing here? You were supposed to get away. Like you were supposed to leave Wonderland and do whatever you want." But she was like, "No, I came back to get you guys." And lo and behold, this didn't fucking work, because the queen knows that she's there. She was like, "I knew the whole time. Like, you really think that you could get past me? That's crazy." And so she's like, "Okay, keep these two in the dungeon. We're going to the tea party." And Red goes, "You're still making me do the tea party after I tried to run away. I tried to run away from Wonderland, and you're making me do this shit." And at this tea party, as a punishment to Red, she brings out both Chester and Ace onto like this balcony thing that they have where they're doing the royal decree. And this is before Red has like said anything. She's just sitting there like mad as fuck. And she turns Chester with her magic into an actual Cheshire cat. So he's now just a cat. But he still has like Chester's thoughts, I do believe, and he like his eyes and stuff like that. But he's a cat. He runs off because he's a cat now. And she turns Ace into a card soldier, so he has no recollection of like anything. And so Red tries to talk to him. She's like, "Oh, like it's me, like it's Red, like please, like say something." But he's just like, "Oh." And then nail in the coffin, she goes, "Kneel for me." And so he kneels down with like no second thought, because he's now a mindless soldier, which sucks. And then Red is forced to, as a royal decree, she says any gatherings in Wonderland of two or more needs a like signed reason. So it's like you literally can't meet with like friends or anything without like a written reason, which is crazy, a little bit wild, and it's just a jab at her having friends basically. So um very rude to Red. And this it makes so much more sense of why Red hated her mother in the movie, because it was kind of undeserved. She was like, "Oh, I don't want to be like my mother," but she like hated her guts. She literally like did terrorism attacks against her own castle. But to make so much more sense, she literally made the guy that she liked a mindless soldier, and then turned her like only friend into a cat. That's crazy. That's a little bit wild. So she's just now alone and has to talk to herself. Hence why she befriends her teacher, who is many years older than her. T. T for that one. But Maddox Hatter is literally a favorite of the entire like town. Everyone likes him, even though he isn't very like royal gung ho. Like he doesn't love that. And there's a lot of talk about time travel in this book, that like giving prequel to the movie, because Maddox Hatter is like, "Oh my god, like you can travel through space and time," and this is probably when he makes his time travel little clock or whatever. But they don't really talk about that. That's why it's unrelated to Rise of Red mostly. So that's fun, but that's literally the whole book, and it's kind of sad. I honestly enjoyed this book way better than the third and fourth one, so that says something. But this was written, I think, in 2022. So shout out to Melissa De Cruz, still keeping it going, even though the new Descendants movie is definitely a movie. I love Descendants franchise till the day I die. That movie is a hot mess. It's hot garbage. Um, it makes no fucking sense. And also, there is an extra chapter in the Barnes and Noble copy of this book. I don't have it though. I don't even have the physical copy of any of these books anymore. I lost them. So I I think it's along the lines of they're talking to Chloe Charming, as in the like Mal and Ben are about going to Order on Prep. I think that's basically it from what I read on the Shins Wiki. That's all I have. Okay. And if any of this facts are wrong about any of these books, that's because I basically took my notes from memory or I skimmed the Descendants wiki. That's all I did because I read these about a few months ago and I read them all through audiobook, which doesn't really stick up here all the time if I'm not reading the words themselves. So if any of the details are wrong, that's why. And I can't really fix that because I'm not going to go back and edit all of it or refilm it. So that's what we have to deal with. But this book was completely from memory. I didn't even check the wiki. So a lot of these details could be wrong, and that's okay because is this book really important? No, it doesn't really add anything except for the fact that they put music on cassettes. That's very interesting. That's very fun. But um, if you're still here, thank you for watching the whole thing because it's been a hell of a lot of time to film it and edit it already because I've already been editing some of it. I am insane for recapping all of these and reading all of these in the year of 2024. But at the end of the day, it's Descendants and it's fun. And they add some lore, they add some semblance, I guess. And thank you for watching.